What is going on, my fellow Omi homies? It's Foster, and I'm back at it again with another Veve and Ecomi interview. Today, we have a absolute legend in the interview seat today. We have what we're going to identify as Aaron for his own privacy. As you can see, he's not on video currently, but he is here on audio. Say hi to everyone, Aaron.
What's up, everybody?
Thanks so much for having you on, man. So, guys, I apologize for the delay there. No unintentional buildup of hype. We were just having some issues getting him to connect with.
No, it's okay. You can blame me for that, man. I had serious technical issues over here. You're all probably wondering what's up with this dude. He says he has all this Omi. He can't even figure out how to connect this microphone.
Yeah, Captain always goes down with his ship. It's all good, man. You're on the channel. I take full responsibility for it.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
For anyone that's in the chat right now or who are going to be joining back, watching this later, thank you so much for stopping by, checking out the channel. As always, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, we are live. So comment in the chat, guys. Get involved in the conversation. And of course, Aaron will be answering as many questions as he can on top of the questions that I'm going to be asking him. And I guess first and foremost, Aaron, we'll just start off with a little bit of your backstory. Just maybe, your name, and if you feel comfortable saying, relatively where you're from and relatively how old you are, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, my name is not obviously Aaron. I'm not going to disclose my real name. You can just refer to me as Aaron. Okay. I'm 28 years old. My backstory, let me see how to begin. Well, I came from a different country to the United States when I was 8 years old. Okay. So, I went to high school, had typical high school education, and then I went to get a doctorate in healthcare. I'm not going to say exactly which field I went into. I'm just going to keep some things ambiguous. To protect my identity for obvious reasons. But basically, after I finished my doctorate, I realized, you know what, I'm not really digging this. Going to work, the pressure was really a lot. Just basically the burden of taking care of people's health, and the constant pressure of knowing that a single wrong decision can basically cost somebody their life or injure them greatly. Yeah. It was too much. It was too much for me. I know my strengths and weaknesses, and for my temperament and my personality, and ended up just being a little bit too much, So I basically went into a state of, I could probably call it desperation, where I decided, I'd rather do anything than having to wake up and work for somebody else, especially in extremely high stress situation like that. Because it's different, going to school and going to classes and learning, that's a different situation than actually being in there and practicing and being in control of everybody's healthcare. So going through the academic portion was okay. In fact, I enjoyed it. I really liked college. I'm even thinking of going back. Just for fun. But after I graduated, all I had was $5,000, Okay, and this was how long ago was this? This was 4.5 years ago.
Okay, so 4.5 years ago, you're sitting with $5,000 to your name, and you're in a position you went to school for something and you're not as interested in it as you thought it would be. It's a little bit too stressful, and you're looking for a different way to obviously live your life and make money. So
exactly. And I was thinking of quitting, halfway through, but then I decided, forget it. I just finished, and I finished. And so basically, $5,000 after I finished is all I had. That was left over from school loans, and then I had, on top of that, I had $300,000 in debt, so quite a bit.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so, I guess that was related to obviously the program that you were in, and being really specialized. I'm sure it was quite expensive.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, I basically, so I was like, okay, well, what am I good at? What can I do? And the thing I was good at, the thing I really liked, was actually collecting. I was into Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! In particular, throughout college. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! I love it so much, I had all the trading cards back when I first came to America. It was really nostalgic for me with all my friends and everything. So what I did basically for the like, for like 2 or 3 years was basically I would just like find good deals for like trading cards, and I would have them professionally graded, and then I would resell them. So it's kind of like flipping.
Okay.
And yeah, and over the years, I was able to ultimately come up to about $100,000 last year,
Oh,
through
wow.
all.
Okay.
Yeah. So that worked out pretty well. I got to about 100,000, and so then my story took a little bit of a twist, because last year I was like, okay, I see Bitcoin at $9,000 after the COVID thing, and I was like, okay, $9,000, I can see this thing breaking out. And the moment it started breaking out, I was like, okay, yeah, this is the start of the bull market. This is it. Strap yourself in. This is the opportunity right now. Now is the time to be making good decisions. And I decided at the time, that the project that looked the most promising to me was actually Cardano. At the
Okay.
time, yeah, at the time it was number 12 on the coin market cap. Okay, that was like 7 to 8 cents when I decided to go all into Cardano. When people were making fun of it, saying it's a ghost chain and all sorts of
Oh
silly
yeah.
things.
Well, I know another project that we might talk about in a bit that I think a few people have some opinions on as well. So for sure. So keep it going. So you invested in Cardano, which, like you said, at the
Yeah.
time definitely wasn't what it is now.
No, yeah, it wasn't like what it is now, where everybody's like, "Oh my God, yeah, Cardano's so cool. It's number 3, number 4." Back then, it was number 12, and people were making fun of it, and there was no expectation that it was going to rise to number 3 or number 4. But for me personally, I'm a fundamentals first type of investor, and
Right.
technicals are cool and all that. I look at technicals, but for me now, fundamentals are number 1. Okay, so you could have looked at the technicals of Cardano and been like, "Oh, damn, that's intense. This thing went to $1. Now it's like at 5 cents." I'm not digging that. There's no
Yeah.
point in investing in that. But no, you look at the fundamentals first, the value proposition, and then the team behind it. And that's what I did for Cardano. I did my analysis of it that way. I decided, yes, I think this is a highly transformative project. I think it has a tremendous potential. And so I went all in. And basically, long story short, over the next number of months, I invested obviously all into Cardano, but also margin traded Cardano, leverage traded, which for those of you that don't
Okay.
know, yeah, it's just basically like basically borrowing against your assets with the
Right.
risk of being liquidated, depending on
Yeah.
how much leverage you take on. I always took on low leverage, but I took on high quantities. So I was like, at times I was 50 to 100% all in my leverage positions. Now, to be
Wow.
fair, I did only use about 4 positions over the past year, like 4 or 5, but those
Okay.
were like really key positions. So anyways, I was able to about triple or quadruple my Cardano stack over the previous year, right?
Okay. Yep.
So just to tie this back to my backstory, how this all worked out. That's in March I discovered Omi, and
So March of this year. So March of 2021, you discovered.
yeah,
Okay.
and that was
So
when it was 0.009,
okay.
right?
So yeah, so pretty close to its current all-time high. Before we go into how you discovered Omi, because that's something that I know the community is definitely going to want to focus on.
Yeah.
What price did you buy in? Like, what was Cardano at when you first bought in at it, and then what did you sell at roughly?
Okay. It was about 8 cents when I went
Okay.
all into it. Yeah, and I averaged out from Cardano into Omi. So, like, I would say probably like my average is $2 at what I sold my ADA at,
Okay.
all together, just around $2. Yeah.
So that's like 25-30x from what you had put it in at, I guess at the
Uh,
8 cent mark or 40.
yeah. Well, it's actually probably a lot more than that because of the leverage trading. But
Oh,
yeah,
of course. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Okay. Wow. So you invested in Cardano. So what was it? I mean, obviously you were looking for a transition to get into, and of course we'll get into the OMI, but you went from the field that you were in, to trading, Yu-Gi-Oh cards to
Yeah.
finding Cardano. Like, what was it like? What made you find cryptocurrency back in like 2000 and I guess 20, when maybe it wasn't being talked about as much? Like, this is before the
Oh
bull run.
yeah.
Really, you said you had seen Bitcoin at $9,000. Was it like a friend of yours that said, hey, you should look into crypto, or was you were just doing your own research and you found it?
Yeah, actually, I had a friend in Yu-Gi-Oh
Okay.
who told me about Bitcoin in 2018, early 2018, back when it hit its bull market peak at 20K before it tapered off. And I bought my first Bitcoin actually at $3,300, right at the bottom of the bear market.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, but I only bought, I think, like a few of them, so I kind of just held out. Yeah, I mean, that wasn't that big of a deal. But then I decided, when I saw the $9,000 Bitcoin, and then I was, I really was anticipating a big breakout, and that happened. And that's when I decided, yep, this is it. This is it. Everybody strap in. And that's when I decided I'm going to sell all my Yu-Gi-Oh cards and sell everything I have,
Right.
and go all into Cardano, because I really don't think my Blue Eyes White Dragon, my Exodia is gonna do what Cardano is gonna do,
Well,
So that's why I sold.
It might on Veve. We'll see. So that
Oh
I
man, that'll
think
be cool.
I think that's a perfect segue. So obviously we were talking a little bit off stream, and for anyone that is curious and maybe joined the stream a little bit late, because I definitely see that we have some more people here than what we had when we first started. Just so you know, Aaron is a OMI holder. Has over 1 billion tokens for privacy reasons, because obviously when you get up to that level, it becomes pretty obvious who you are if you go on the Go Chain tracker. We're not going to be revealing his exact holdings as per his request. And as well, for anyone that has any doubts or may say, well, how do you know? He did provide me with screenshots of all of the information proving that he does have the amounts that he has. Whether you want to believe me, of course, is entirely up to you, but to respect his privacy, which I think is important, especially if you want to share your story, we will not be sharing that information. So that's the reason that you don't see him. Well, part of the reason. The other issue is we couldn't get his computer to work properly, so he's actually doing this on his cell phone right now. So that's part of the reason that you don't see him. And for any of you guys that are curious, like I said, he does hold over 1 billion OMI, and that has been confirmed. So with that being said, Aaron, tell us the story in March as to why you decided that this project was going to be worth, more than all of your Cardano investments and pretty much any other investment in the cryptocurrency space. Let us know.
By the way, just to touch on what you said, yeah, you cannot see my face. I wish the circumstances were different, but we do live in a perilous world, and I do wish I could show my face. I would like a more personal interaction, because I like you a lot, actually. I already told you you're my favorite OMI content creator. But yeah, this is just the world we live in. So I guess this is what we'll have to deal with for now.
For sure, brother. I appreciate that. Maybe when we get to the point where everyone in the chat is millionaires, it won't matter too much, and we'll be able to to hang out at meetups and whatever. But
Yeah.
like you said, when you have the amount of OMI you have, it's I mean,
Yeah,
you never know who's going to watch the stream. So no, I respect that, and
I know.
and anyone that's watching that doesn't, I mean, that's your choice, right? I mean, so
yeah, and by the way, I might change my mind later on. I might not care. At a future point, I might decide it doesn't really matter as much, because there are plenty of people out there with tons of assets who are public, So anyways, so to answer your question, how I decided to go from Cardano into OMI. Well, yeah, so Cardano already had pulled off its magnificent run at that point, and I decided, all right, well, maybe I can expect another 3x 4x from ADA, and that's lovely. But maybe I can find something else that can give me greater returns for the remainder of the bull market. And that was at the same time that I first saw videos on YouTube about Ecomi, about OMI.
Gotcha.
And it piqued my interest immediately, because I come from a collecting background, like I said, with Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon. So I have almost a decade of experience in that, because, yeah, I'm 28, but I've been like seriously collecting stuff for since I was 18, and even before then, actually. So yeah, when I first came across Ecomi and Veve, I understood the value proposition immediately, because as David and Dan say, everybody is a fan of something. And the world is changing at a very rapid pace. Things are becoming digitized, and the collecting mentality is going to obviously saturate these new industries that are emerging.
Yes.
So for the way I see it, for me, the first thing to look at on the fundamental analysis is the value proposition, and then the second thing is the team or the people behind the project that aim to deliver that value proposition. So the value proposition is quite obvious to me, which is to essentially, transition or create an alternative medium for collecting aside from just the physical that we have currently. And yeah, the fact that these people have seen this basically years before NFTs even became a thing is something that I find quite remarkable. Another thing is that for me, I think one of my strengths is that I'm able to really get a good gauge in terms of where a person is coming from, in terms of their abilities and in terms of their vision. Like for me, like for Cardano, for instance, when I listen to Charles Hoskinson, some people might listen to him and might think, oh, okay, well, that's a smart guy.
Right.
Well, there's plenty of smart people out there.
Yeah.
Plenty of people with PhDs in math and physics and all sorts of things, Well, that doesn't make you that special to be smart. However, I think that there is something unique about Charles Hoskinson. I think he's a visionary. I think he has a foresight and a wisdom, which goes above and beyond mere intelligence. Now, when I listen to someone like David Yu and Dan Crothers, I get similar vibes, to be quite honest, especially with David in his recent AMA in particular that he did with the community on Twitter, which I found really cool.
It was incredible, and I mean, shout out to Cavell Anderson, who's in the chat right now. He did a great job of recording it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend at the time, but just listening to some of the videos of David talk, and like you said, similarly to Charles, how he's passionate about something and how he won't rush greatness. He's fine with delaying things and taking the time to do things right. It's very evident when you hear David Yu talk about the project. He's passionate about it. He doesn't care about the money in it. He knows that it'll come over time. He wants to create the best product that people can enjoy. And you're right. It's incredible to listen to him.
It really is. Yeah. And when you hear him say something like, I dream really big, that's what he said. Those were his words. I dream really big. You can feel the conviction behind what he's saying. And so I first got into like Veve in March, right? And I was at 0.009. And as time went on, obviously the price decreased as low as 0.00125, I believe, on its Sendex.
Yes.
I went in, I made some purchases at like 0.004 and then the 0.003. So my average entry is like 0.0046. But my point is that over time, as time went on, my conviction in the project increased. Even as the price was decreasing, my conviction in the fundamentals was actually increasing as I started to understand more about what the vision is and in particular what the possibilities are for a project like this.
So I have to, I have to ask you because like you said, your conviction increased in the project. And it's funny that you say that because similarly to how you felt that way, I felt the same way as it was going down. But for me, your portfolio is still decreasing. And I didn't do as well as I could have at dollar cost averaging down, not as well as you did. Mind you, I was also investing a much smaller amount relative to what you were investing. But, what was it about the fundamentals of the project that really made you, even though the price was decreasing, more bullish? Was it because the Omi token is what underpins the Veve app, but the Veve app is really the product that you want to see be successful. So what was it over that period of time that as the Omi token was going down led you to feel so confident in the fact that this was still a great fundamental investment?
Well, the Omi token, like you say, the Omi token is obviously presently useless. Cannot really do anything right now.
Yes.
but its success is going to be entirely contingent on the success of Veve, the app.
Yes.
Open the app and use the app and see how you feel about interacting with the collectibles. There is a certain form of compulsion that you feel to own and possess them and to share your possession with others. This is collecting. This is the psychology of collecting. The psychology of collecting, I could talk about it for hours. It fascinates me so much. I think that has very strong biological underpinnings because, society has only existed for about like 20,000 years since agriculture, but humans in their present species form, Homo sapiens, has existed for like 300,000 or more years. In the vast majority of those years, 208,000 or more, we've been hunters and gatherers. Right. And I believe that there is some sort of common thread there between our hunter and gatherer past and our desire to want to possess these objects, whether they're in physical or digital form, and to share them with others. It just so happens that the digital form of collecting I find more compelling than the physical, because with the digital, it's actually easier to show off and create stories and myths around your assets. The possibilities are actually much vaster than they are with the physical. And I know this from firsthand experience because I've collected physical for a decade nearly. But I see what's unfolding with the digital. And, I mean, AR is cool. AR is very cool.
Right.
But believe me, what we have with AR right now is nothing compared to what's coming with AR and mixed reality. To see your object through your phone, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see it in your room. But to have glasses on, imagine to have glasses on, the difference is very difficult to communicate how vast that difference is between seeing it through a 6-inch device versus seeing it 360 all around you.
Being fully immersed in it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, whether it's in VR or AR, it's something that is, it's obvious that this is what's coming. That this is the world we're headed into, and that coupled with the psychology of investing, in addition to the simple fact that these assets can be transacted instantaneously, as opposed to, with like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon cards, you have to negotiate and then ship them, and there's not the dopamine dynamic isn't exactly the same, because that right now, if you really want a Todd McFarlane, you can go and get one right now, instantly, tonight. You can show it off, you can have it, you can complete that set. I don't think the incentives are as strong yet right now to really, make full use of that dopamine dynamic, but obviously they have the Master Collector program coming, and I'm confident that this thing is going to play out in ways that, we all hope it will.
Well, so, and like you said about dopamine levels, I mean, honestly, when you think about like even the very, very very first introduction of, and I don't even want to call it gamification, but just things you can do on the app. Like you think about blind boxes, or you even thinking about, like, for me, I don't know about you, and we'll get into your collecting journey on Veve in a moment, but when I'm going to buy a collectible on my phone on drop day, I'm sweating buckets, man. Like I'm sitting there like, hey, did I reset my Wi-Fi? Is my phone good? Are all the apps closed? Did I delete all of my cached data? Is it aligned correctly? Are we good to go? Like there's so many things that go into it. And then when you're able to secure it, that rush and that thrill that you get is incredible. And then you add blind boxes in on top of that. And I mean, blind boxes, like you may secure something, but you don't even know what you're getting until you get it. And same with comics, like you get something and then it's like, oh my God, like, did I get a secret rare? Did I get an ultra rare? Did I just get a common? And so I'll be sitting there and every 30 seconds I'm opening up my phone just to see what I got. And that's just like, we're talking base level of what we're going to see in the future.
Yeah. Foster, it's interesting. I really find the psychology of collecting very fascinating. I think the core of collecting on a psychological level is actually the fact that our sense of self is actually invested in the things that we own and the stories behind the things that we own. And in addition to that, our ability to show others the things that we own and the stories behind the things that we own. So our sense of self, our very sense of self is informed by what we possess and what we can show others what we possess. So this is, and by the way, this is under the radar for most of us. We don't verbalize this. We don't know that, oh yes, indeed, yes, yes, this is what's happening. No, we don't do that. But it is what's happening. We want to show others. We want to share in what we possess. We want to encourage others to, to build their own collection, their own journey. So collecting to me is a very fundamental aspect of being a human, being a person, a very fundamental aspect of it. I think we're all collectors in some sense. And so this is really touching deeply into what we care about.
So speaking of collectibles, I mean, obviously you own a ridiculous amount of OMI tokens. Two questions. First and foremost, do you feel comfortable saying roughly, you don't have to say the exact amount, but roughly the amount you invested in the project?
It's nearly $6 million.
Nearly $6 million.
Yeah.
Oh, and here I am sitting going, yeah, guys, I did a good job. I went all in on OMI. I'm sitting here telling people I went all in on OMI, and then I'm talking to you. That's crazy.
I went all in, basically. Like,
you did go all in, yeah.
Yeah, OMI is at least 80% of all my holdings. So, yeah.
That's incredible. Okay, so you put in about $6 million into the project over between March and where you are today.
Yeah.
How much are you up right now, if you don't mind saying? Like what would your portfolio roughly be right now? Like are you up like a couple million? Are you up like...
No, I think I'm up between 3 and 4 million. Yeah, between 3 and 4 million.
Okay, so I gotta ask before we get into the collectibles, as a 28-year-old who, I mean, I don't know what kind of lifestyle you live, and I don't mean to be presumptuous, but I would say with if you're up 3 or 4 million, you invested 6, you're close to $10 million right now. Like, you could pull out right now and live the rest of your life like stress-free, I would imagine, right? Like your house is paid off, your bills are paid off. So what is it that, I mean, $10 million a lot, like it could still, and I mean, it is a realistic perspective that people still need to consider. Do I believe it? No, but it is still possible that OMI could go to zero. Like that is still a possibility. So what is it about the project or what is it about your mindset that has that much money to your name right now? And you go, no, you know what? I'm good with holding it for now. Like how do you, because if I had $6 million right now, I would be hard pressed not to sell some of it. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it could go to zero. just to point out, yes, of course it could go to zero. It could turn out that I could come up with a million hypothetical conspiracy theories or, trajectories for the future. Yeah, it could. And that's not to say I don't have a plan to offload some of the risk. I do.
Right.
We could talk about that in a little bit. But I do plan to hold the vast majority of my OMI because I think that whichever project is going to basically be at the forefront leading this revolution of collecting from physical to digital is I mean the stakes are just absolutely tremendous here. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars in 5-10 years. So I mean, I think people who are not into collecting are going to find themselves being collectors. People who generally wouldn't be into collecting like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon cards might or will be into it when they're presented with something that's so easy to access and that their friends are using. So I mean, the answer to your question is really multifold. I would say primarily is my own gut feeling about basically the. I think there's something meaningful to be said about our gut feelings, but it's my own gut feeling about the people behind the project, the partnerships that they already have and that they haven't revealed, the cars that they're holding, basically,
Okay.
and the future that we're headed into, probably more than anything, really. So I really want a big slice of that pie. I want a big slice of that pie, and so I do not plan to sell, the majority of my OMI. I plan to hold the majority of my OMI.
Right. So speaking of holding, selling, and whatever, obviously we don't have to get into, your specific strategy. Like, hey, I'm going to sell, 200 million OMI at 4 cents, because then everyone's going to look at this and at 3.9 cents, they're going to go, oh, well, we know the sells or whatever. But so we won't get into that specifically, but
Right.
I have people in the chat nagging me nonstop. So I am going to ask the question a little sooner than I wanted to, but
Okay.
do you have a not necessarily an exit point for you, because that's your own personal investment, that's your thing, but do you have, based on the amount of OMI you have, obviously you have a lot of conviction in the project, but do you have a sense of where you believe this price could go with some of the catalysts that we have coming in, the immutable migration, exchange listings, being listed, staking, master collector program, MTL, like all of these things, like the Veve verse coming in next year, do you have any, have you even thought about, like, yes, because I know, don't get me wrong, and we've all talked about it, but like, do you think OMI will ever hit $1? Do you think OMI will ever hit $10? Do you think it'll ever hit 10 cents? Like, where do you kind of sit on that?
Yeah, I think I think $1 is definitely, possible. I think $10 is possible.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm with Cavell on that one. I really do think $10 is possible.
Okay.
So yeah, just listen to David Yu when he says, "I dream big." Okay, really, honestly, I understand it's difficult for people to understand when I point to just one statement, but you have to really put everything together. But listen to the guy, look at his history, listen to his speeches, his presentations. When he says, "I dream big," believe me, he dreams really big. He's going to make the Viviverse into as profound of an experience as you can imagine. And this is iteration after iteration after iteration. So when we say $10, we're not talking in 3 years. We're not talking, we're talking much further than that. We're talking further than that. Okay, give it some time. When you see the grandness of this vision, you can definitely make sense of how $10 will be a reality, in my view. Also, in my view, I think $1 is, it really is something that, $1 is, how much are we talking with $1, right? How much are we talking? We're talking probably under 200 billion if you factor in,
if you factor in staking and burn and other
yeah,
mechanisms,
if you factor that in and factor everything, probably under 200 billion. Come on, man, 200 billion. When you think about collecting
in a few years, especially how the collectible, or not the collectibles, the crypto
yeah,
market as a whole is growing.
Yeah.
You're making a moon boy out of me live. You can't be doing that. All right. You're getting me all sweaty and hot and bothered. I feel
well,
like
okay. To be fair, I do have reservations. We can talk about that as well.
Yeah, and I think that is important to understand as well. And I think we will obviously touch on that shortly, because like you said, because it's great to paint this this perfect picture where everything's going to go perfectly, everyone's going to be millionaires or whatever. But I do have to ask before we get into your reservations. So let's say hypothetically, and of course we're just going to say $1 billion. You own $1 billion OMI. If you think that it could go to $1, then that's $1 billion. Like I'm talking to a billionaire possibly right now, especially if you think it's going to go to $10. Like you could sell off 90% of your holdings, and if it goes to $10, you're still a billionaire. So like, you're 28 years old. Like, how does that make, like, to hear that number be thrown around? Like when you like, I'll give you an example. When you say that to me, $1, like I don't need $1. Like I don't know if you have a number. Like for me, 50 cents is more than enough for me to retire, pay off my house, never work a day in my life again. My wife never work a day in her life again. My child to, be taken care of education wise, put some money aside for housing, whatever, help my parents out, all of that. I can do at 50 cents. I mean, for you, you know, conceivably, you're probably already at that point. But like when you start throwing around numbers, like, have you gone to like a financial advisor and been like, hey, what should I do here? Or are you just like really like you're just trusting your gut, man? Like you're truly like you understand this project and you're in it and you'll know. Like do you have a number, or do you just one day you'll wake up and you know?
Well, I think you're asking some deep questions there. You know, I think you're asking some questions that don't seem as deep, but actually they're touching on some very deep topics.
Okay.
Like for one thing, in my own view, I think that you know, things in life generally unfold purposefully. For one thing, and another thing is that like the way I live my life is first and foremost with the knowledge that I'm going to die, that this is all coming to an end. I can't take anything with me. I cannot take a single thing with me. Not a single Omi, not a single dollar, not a single collectible, nothing I can take with me. So I'm only here shortly and briefly. And to me, the greatest honor I can have in life is to be generous to others, to give back to others. So if anything, really, this would be just an opportunity for me to really express love to other people, because what else is there to do in life other than to aim towards that goal, really? Because I mean, if you really look at the situation of what it's like to be a person, it's, in my view, it's a perilous state of suffering. You know, like my own philosophy is more on the Buddhist side. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but just to touch on it briefly, because you know,
of course,
this is where
for sure, man. This is your platform, and I mean, I've asked the question.
Well,
I think everyone wants to hear it. Yeah, do your thing.
Well, yeah. So the first tenet of Buddhism and the Four Noble Truths, the first one is that life is suffering. And I feel this very deeply. I also feel very deeply that regardless of how much money I have or how much wealth I have, that it will not bring lasting satisfaction. Okay. So for this reason, I feel that really the best course of action is really to pursue spiritual insight, meditative insight, and to be generous to others, and to see others as yourself, to want happiness for others as you want for yourself. This is what I aim as the highest goal in my life, to basically to aim for spiritual liberation and states of unconditional love for others. So if this allows me to move into that direction and help others more, then wonderful. I don't need $100 million. I don't need $1 billion. What am I going to do with all that money? But how could I possibly spend all that money? I don't understand. Sure. What could a single person do with all that? I don't know what the billionaires do with all that. They invest, they make more. Suppose they could do that. But what's the end goal with all that? I don't really know what the point of a mega yacht is for me personally. So yeah.
No, I mean,
it is hard to wrap my head around it, because that's what you asked, you know, like how do I make sense of it at 20 years old? It is a little hard to wrap my head around it, only because, you know, a year ago, all I had was less than 100,000. And, you know, like 4 years ago, I had only 5,000. So to be talking in terms of tens of millions or hundreds of millions or billions, as you say, I mean, it's really, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around. But I'm excited to be part of Veve and Ecomi. Honestly, it brings me a lot of joy. It brings a lot of meaning to my life, because I like collecting, and I know collecting brings people together. And I know that it gives me an opportunity to give back and be generous to others. So for me, yeah, it's a really big deal to me, and I'm very honored. I'm very humbled. I'm very grateful. I'm very appreciative that I'm in this position, honestly.
It honestly, brother, it's a lot to process. I mean, I think it's very evident to me, and I'm sure that it's evident to anyone listening right now, that you have an incredibly good head on your shoulders, and you're very thoughtful about how you approach your life and your beliefs, and how you you know, plan to move forward. And I think that speaks volumes for your character, and it makes perfect sense why I think someone who feels the way that you do about, you know, collecting and the world and bringing people together would invest in a project like this, because I feel like, at least for me, it checks all the boxes that you're looking for. You know, with that being said, though, and I think that, you know, like I said, and like I think it's important, you know, you discuss a lot of positive things. And for those that are just joining now, Aaron, who holds over 1 billion tokens, does believe that it is possible that the token will not only hit $1 one day, but could even hit as high as $10 one day, with staking and burning mechanisms in place, and with the overall growth of the collectibles and the crypto market as a whole. So with that being said, though, Aaron, obviously no project is perfect. So can you tell me some of your thoughts about, you know, whatever, however you want to take the question, you run with it, but any concerns you have about, you know, the project or the token or the space as a whole, or, you know, don't call it a concern, call it a, you know, call it whatever you want, but, you know, let me know your thoughts on things that maybe you think need to be improved, or that you don't like as much.
Yeah, it's a complicated question. So I'm trying to prioritize this in terms of which are the most important, which is quote unquote concern is the most important. I think for me, the most important one is probably the accelerating pace of technology. So like there's this thing, there's this concept called the law of accelerating returns in technology, whereby the rate of technological progress itself increases over time and is essentially exponential. We see this in many sectors and in many different aspects of technology as it instantiates itself. So the reason I bring that up is because the main concern I would have is Ecomi's ability to essentially integrate itself with this exponential curve of technological progress, right? So like right now, what we see are 3D collectibles and comics primarily. We have some animated stuff going on. We have a Veveverse, you know, a concept, and we have the prospect of wearable AR and VR technologies. However, things are going to get much more bizarre than that in ways that we cannot currently comprehend. So like for instance, AI, artificial intelligence, right?
Yep.
It's conceivable to me, at least, that we could see NFTs that are artificially intelligent, that behave in ways that are spooky to our current understandings.
Yeah.
So what I worry about is whether some other project is going to come along and secure licenses that go beyond what currently the team behind Ecomi has going for it. Something that is AI capable, or something with just profoundly greater capabilities that is much more compelling to own and share. So that depends in part, obviously, on how forward-thinking David and Dan are, right? So that would be, I think, my first and primary concern, their ability to keep up with these really profound changes. And by the way, just to touch on this lightly, these changes that I'm talking about are really subtle and profound and difficult to comprehend, because our brains are basically built to think in linear terms. Like if you count to the number 32 linearly, it'll take you 32 steps to get there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you do it exponentially, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, do you know what number you get to after 32 doublings?
Right. So you go 64, 128, 256.
Yeah. You want to take a guess? Some people say 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million. No, over 1 billion. Over 1 billion just after 32 doublings. So that's difficult for us to wrap our primate brains around. And the same thing is what's unfolding technologically. So like, for instance, if you went back to 2001 and you brought your cell phone back to them and say, hey, guys, look what I have from 2021. I have the cell phone and look what it can do. There's crypto on it. There's NFTs on it. There's a super high-tech camera on it. People be like, whoa, no way. We did that in just 20 years? Okay, now that's 20 years. But the next 10 years, from 2021 to 2031, the next 10 years is going to see so much more change than the last 20 years combined. So much more than we can presently comprehend. And the next 10 years after that is going to be even more profound. And in fact, this trend of ever increasing paradigm shifts in technology is actually leading to a pinnacle, an apex, a point of no returns, so to speak. This is a hypothesis in futurism called this technological singularity, for those that want to look into it. Anyways, that's that's on another topic. But the point is that the relevant aspect here is that technology is changing at ever increasing rates. And obviously, in order for Veve to hit these, or for Omi to hit these $10 levels or $1 to $10 levels, it's going to have to keep up with the accelerating rate of technological growth.
Okay, so wow, I don't often have to sit in silent reflection for a while. Usually I have a pretty quick answer for everything, but man, you I mean, it makes sense why you have over 1 billion Omi. You're on another level of thinking and understanding. And I know, because I'm reading the comments, that everyone in the chat is just, enamored with your thought processes and how you look at the world. It's fantastic. So I guess to sum up, the first point that you think that they need to work on in I'll call it my terms, so layman terms, is essentially they need to be able to keep up with the rate at which technology is evolving. So, obviously David and Dan have big dreams, but as we know, dreams only, translate to reality if you have the resources to have it done. Now, we know, because I know you were listening to the AMA with Dan the other night, we know that they've recently tripled the size of their team and that they're working on opening offices on every continent in the world. Obviously, they've had some issues with COVID and things of that nature.
Right.
They work with so many major IP license holders right now that I'm sure, provide them with resources. I'm sure they have contractors that don't technically count as employees for their company that are also doing work for them. Do you envision that as the Veve app in its current state continues to grow more successful, that Veve and Ecomi will be able to, gather the resources necessary? Because to me, and when I'm thinking about it, as a perfect example, if Veve has had a successful relationship with Marvel, let's say we're 3 years down the road now, and they've had a successful relationship. Veve's made, Marvel $1 billion and everyone's happy. And then this new cutting edge technology comes out. There may be a new app that's like, hey, we want to do this, with Marvel. But is it not conceivable that at that point, because of the success that Veve has already had for all of their license holders and the relationships that Dan and David have been able to not only create, but maintain over that time, that Marvel would just say, well, no, we're not going to do this on some random, app that's never existed before. We're going to do this on the one that already exists. Similarly to on Veve now, all of the licenses that we're acquiring, we were acquiring when no one knew what an NFT was. Now, if you take a new company that's looking to get into the NFT game and secure licenses, why would they go to any other company other than Veve when we all know that Veve is going to be the most successful in the space? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. That's a great point. I definitely share that sentiment that there is a momentum behind the partnerships, and that as technology improves, this momentum will give basically Veve and Ecomi an advantage in adopting that technology over others. It's just that in my own assessment of the situation, I think that there are so many unpredictable factors involved with technological growth that it's difficult to make sense of it in just those terms, in just partnership terms, because a new way of interacting, a new way of being immersed with your assets could emerge and really have a life of its own in ways that are difficult to comprehend from our present perspective. So yeah, I mean, it's just that for me, I feel like I have a really strong appreciation of just how profound these changes are going to be. And so for me, the magnitude of the change is enough to have a significant, reservation about how things are going to play out. I think it warrants a significant reservation. I think the magnitude of the change that is coming warrants a significant reservation, despite the momentum and the partnerships that Ecomi has. So I think it justifies basically it justifies basically like
it's like a healthy skepticism, like a healthy skepticism.
I guess a healthy skepticism.
Yeah,
but also it justifies a position where it's fair to say that Ecomi really has to be on its toes. It has to be on its toes with technology as it develops. And of course, this is exponential. So the next year of progress is probably not going to be anything compared to 5 years from now in terms of 1 year of how much change we'll see. So again, it's difficult for people to understand. By the way, it's really difficult. It's just really difficult to understand how a year of progress today, from today, a year from now, how different that is 5 years from now. You know, like 1 year, 5 years from now, a duration of 1 year, 5 years in the future versus a duration of 1 year right now. The difference between that length of time is just so profound. It's really difficult to wrap our hands around.
Well, like you said, it's not a linear thing. It's very exponential, and things change, you know, so quickly and are rapidly evolving. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, and by the way, when I said AI, that was just a hypothetical concept that I threw out. It's a term that we could throw out, and yeah, it's going to be a very profound AI. However, there are going to be new terms that are going to be coming out, new paradigm shifts, new ways of interacting with each other, new memes, basically cultural, technological, social shifts in humanity at large. So just based on that, the context in which all of this is happening is obviously going to be my primary concern. The context in which everything's unfolding is going to be my primary concern. So that's why I have to start with that. I have to start with the technological aspect when you ask me what my reservations are, and then we can work down from there.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, and that makes perfect sense. And I think, you know, one final point on that, and when you're talking about the development of technology and how it's a fundamental shift in how we're living our lives, I think that, you know, it's funny, all the way back in 2017, 2018, like David and Dan have always had this kind of Ready Player One concept for what we're going into. And like everyone says, well, we want Ready Player One now. And then Trevor will come out and say, well, the technology isn't what we need it to be in order to accomplish that task right now. But like you said, they're likely going to be on the cutting edge and forefront of that next iteration or evolution of technology, or at least look to partner and be involved with whoever is doing it, because that they had that vision before that vision. It's like being green before being green was cool. You know what I mean? It's like they're looking at these things like they were a carbon neutral platform when no one cared about being carbon neutral, and now everyone's talking about it, and it's like, oh yeah, cool, we did that 6 months ago, like whatever, that doesn't matter. Like it kind of feels the same way. So no, it's very interesting. So that's the foundational, you know, primary part that you discussed on. So what's kind of the next level of that you would say? And we don't even have to call it a concern, just whatever you're noticing that you're like, hey, this needs to get done, or this should probably happen in order to.
Well, I would say, well, my next concern, I think, has been quelled quite a bit from yesterday's AMA with David.
Okay.
Yeah, and it would have been basically the app, the state of the app, and the rate at which it's improving.
Okay.
Because I personally, in my own opinion, I don't think the app is currently ready for mass market. I don't think the app in its current state is ready for mass market.
I agree with that.
Just to be clear though, I think the app is very impressive. It brings together so many different technologies and so many different functionalities into one. And obviously, it's been years in the making. So hats off to Dan and David, honestly, and the team and the developers behind Gap. It's really quite an achievement. I've never seen anything like it, by the way. It's really quite beautiful. However, it's still not ready for mass market. With all that being said, you know, it's glitchy in many respects. It's buggy in many respects. I have a running list of bugs, in fact. And it's slow as well. I mean, you click on something and sometimes I think we all know what I'm talking about, right? You'll click on something, sometimes you'll get the loading wheel for a while.
Yeah.
And there are other inconsistencies within it, user interface issues. Like the search bar isn't very functional. It's actually ridiculous. And you can't search people up like quite that easily. If I want to look you up,
Yeah.
it's really hard. I could go on endlessly, honestly, and I hate to say that. I could go on for quite a while talking about the particular problems I have with the app.
For sure.
So my concern is basically the first impression that new users are going to get by using the app, because people, I think, are used to Instagram and Facebook, and they're used to really quick, snappy, smooth performances for their apps. And so when they get the feel of, okay, this thing isn't loading, or it just restarted on me, or the two-factor authentication isn't working, I have to do it again, or some other such issue, it does give the app less than a premium feel. Now, obviously, this can all be forgiven when you take into consideration that it's been around for a limited amount of time. Obviously, it's relatively new, and the innovation behind it, and most of all, the limited resources that it's been created with. Because as you've listened to David's AMA last night, this isn't, it's not like a corporation putting in billions and billions of dollars to build a product, So this is a bootstrapped effort. And so in its present state, I'm not satisfied with the app. I wish things would move faster. And I understand that it sounds naive on surface to say, oh, well, it's not where it needs to be. It can move faster. It should move faster. I understand that. But I think there does come a point at which such criticism is fair.
For sure. Well, and I think a healthy amount of criticism is important, right? And I think that, myself, and I think a lot of the content creators in the community often get flack from the community at large when a certain issue is present, and we're either not speaking on it as much as someone would like us to speak on it, or we present a perspective that people don't feel is legitimate based on the current circumstance. And I think I can't speak for other people, but I can speak for myself in that if you understand what you're invested in, and you understand the time horizon that you're invested in it for, then these things in the here and now tend to matter a little less. And I think the perfect example is for all of the the positives that the team has going for it, the time frames that they provide are not the best. And so I've come to quell my expectations when they release a specific time frame. Hey, this is going to be done by this date. I kind of go, okay, well, maybe we'll add, we'll double it, or we'll add a week to it, or we'll do whatever the case might be, right? So I think part of the issue is that we live in a here and now society, and crypto magnifies that issue. So we look at things and go, hey, the app really isn't working right now, or hey, it's glitchy, or hey, I tried to make a purchase and it kicked me out. What happened? And I think it's often lost on people that the app was supposed to have maybe 60,000 people by the end of this year, and we're on pace to have over 1 million.
Definitely.
And I mean, and not to discount your point, because it's very valid, and there are many valid issues on the app, but I think sometimes it just helps to remind people, because they don't think about it, right? They read one post on Twitter, or one person is locked out of their account, and not to discount anyone that's locked out of their account right now. We've talked to Alex about it. I've been involved in posts trying to get people tagged and deal with it. But, one person reads that and they just assume everyone on the app is locked out. Or, you see one post about bots and every single person on the app is using bots. Definitely. Perspective, I think, is just a little bit important to remember. But no, I totally agree with you. So keep going. Like you said, there's some quality of life changes.
But by the way, I think your point about the fact that they were expecting 60,000 users, by this point, I think that's a hugely significant aspect that we need to consider, because it allows us to forgive a lot of these shortcomings, if you want to call them that, much more easily, right? Because it's not really a leadership issue. It's not really a foresight issue. It's not really something that the team can be criticized about. It's just that the expectation. I mean, you can't really blame them for not expecting this level of engagement with the app. So yeah, I think that's really important to consider. But if just moving on, like I talked about the app and the
Yep.
inconsistencies, the user interface, the lagginess, the bugginess. Perhaps I have a bit of an issue as well with some of the collectibles. Like, I personally don't really like the fact that the ultra rare and the, like, this is a very specific example, but it's a more general point about how they're doing the animations. Like, the difference between the ultra rare and the animated Spider-Man, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just that the only difference between them is one animation, like one movement, right?
I think so. So I think that animated and the ultimate animated both go into like the web upside down pose, and then the ultimate animated does this. But I think the ultimate animated also has audio. I think.
Oh yeah, it does.
Like
it,
it makes it makes noises. So I mean, not to say that necessarily justifies the price tag and whatever, but I do seem to recall that.
Okay, but these are still early stages of how they're dropping things. So again, this is very easily forgivable for me. But I would just like to see more difference between one rarity and another.
Totally.
In addition, I really don't like the difference between like the scale of certain collectibles. Like, you have the 1-to-1 versus the 1-to-1000 versions. I think it gives some users the feeling that they're being milked. Like, you created this NFT and now you're creating it. You're just basically giving us the same thing, but in just two different like sizes essentially that we can scale it. I don't like that personally. I think my impression is that other people leaves a bad taste in their mouth. And also it kind of, I'm not sure if it really makes sense in terms of completing the set. Like, why would you really want a 1-to-1000 and a 1-to-1 of the same collectible? Wouldn't you rather have like some other kind of differentiator between the two if you want to complete the set?
And I think we see that. Like, I think, just looking in the app at the set prices for completion, I think obviously the news of the Master Collector program has skewed that a little bit, because I think some of those sets have started to get a little bit more love with people just looking to try and complete, cheaper sets. But like you said, I think the DeLorean, the Ecto 1, the Star Trek, two different sizes or whatever, I think those collectibles definitely probably have the least kind of value and resale value, because like you said, they're often the exact same collectible, just a little bit different. And then I hear you on that. I think even the Spider-Man that came out, it was Spider-Man in 5 different poses, but it was the exact same Spider-Man. And I heard some people weren't particularly thrilled with that. And then they released the Ben Reilly Spider-Man like 2 weeks later, and people were like, hey, we're done with Spider-Man. Like, we want to move on to the next thing. So I hear that. Like, I definitely hear that perspective, but I'm just going to take a moment to reset the room, because we just hit over an hour of the stream. So we might have some new people in here that weren't in previously. So just for anyone that, is either new and joined since we had the conversation, or is still sticking with us, thank you so much. But I'm speaking with Aaron right now, who has over 1 billion OMI. He's invested over $6 million, and he is up about $3.5 to $4 million on his investment currently. So we're having a conversation about how he feels about this project, what his price predictions are, what are some of the concerns that he has with the project, and things that he'd like to change moving forward. And once we're done with that, we're going to move into the Veve collectible portion and discuss his collectible portfolio. So with that being said, Aaron, I'll let you continue on, wrapping up any final concerns or things that you'd like to see addressed, and then we'll move over to that.
So just to touch on what you said, I don't feel the same. Like, if you look at the Jermaine Rogers rabbits, right? What is the difference between them? The only difference between them is the colors. And I'm fine with that. That I'm fine with. Because with that, you can see very clearly what the difference is between them. The color is a big differentiator. I mean, they don't look the same at all. So, but when you look at Spider-Man, 6 different poses, or just one animation is slightly different than the other, it kind of falls into some level of obscurity for me, like in terms of the rarity. For me, I think it's important for the difference in the rarity to be somewhat obvious. Like, if you go into someone's showroom, it should be evident what rarity a collectible is without even having to interact with it.
Makes sense.
And so that's why if you see a Jermaine Rogers rabbit in someone's showroom, you're gonna know right away, aha, this is the blue one, or this is the camo one, it's the rarest one from that set, or it's the lucky one, So I would just like to see some more evident differentiators between the different classes of rarities within the sets. That's all,
That makes sense. No,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. I completely get that. So, speaking of collectibles, and I think this would be a good opportunity to segue into it, unless there's any final thoughts that you'd like to say on any improvements that you'd like to see in the app, and then we can move over into your collection.
No, I guess no. We can move on.
Okay, if you think of anything, we can always circle back to it. But I think
Thanks.
it's a good segue into it. So I figure I'd jump on the opportunity. So obviously you own some Omi. I don't know that you own a ton, but you own you got a couple coins laying around. Tell me your collectibles. Like you collect? What's going on with that? You only buying the Omi, or are you a little bit big on the collectibles as well?
Well, yeah, I'm mostly in Omi because like if I go back to my collecting days with Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, it was kind of a pain to sell them. You know,
Gotcha.
like it's much easier to sell Veve collectibles than it is to sell Yu-Gi-Oh Pokemon cards, but it's still easier to sell Omi than it is to sell Veve collectibles, in my opinion. So I like the liquidity aspect and the simplicity aspect of owning a single token versus owning different types of non-fungible tokens.
Okay.
That's my own style. That's just me personally. I like to keep things simple. That being said, I do have quite a bit of collectibles. I have 137 and I have 30 sets completed. And I wasn't expecting to have this many. And so this is what I was talking to you about before, right?
Right.
Like you were asking me, like, what made you the conviction go up? It's my own user experience of it and how drawn I felt to complete sets, to get new collectibles, and to put money into the app. I felt very compelled to do so. And my own experience leads me to believe that others are having a similar experience of this compulsion, this dopamine dynamic, where you're just like the recent Harley Quinn drop, for example.
Yep.
I mean, it's just really cool. It's just really cool, in my opinion. I love the Harleys. I imagine a lot of other people love the Harleys too. And yeah, I got all of them. Like for me personally, the Powerpuff Girls, they're really cool. So I had to get the Bubbles. I have him. I don't have a Donnie though. Maybe one day.
Well, yeah, I think you'll be able to afford it one day. Yeah, I think
perhaps, yeah. And I have all the Batman, like all 5 series of Batman, because I just looking at Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and how that evolved. The original sets always have some sort of OG status to them. And by the way, let me just make a really important point about collectibles that this reminds me of.
All right.
The thing about collectibles that's really interesting is that they become distributed over time. In other words, you see something collectibles that you don't see with a token, and that is permanent holders. People who get a collectible that they like it so much, they're not letting go of it unless an emergency falls upon their shoulders that they must sell. So that's the thing about collectibles that you don't see with a token, is that people will hold on to some of them. And the thing is, like, the collectibles will trade hands over time, trade hands, and eventually a collectible will come to a person who's just not going to sell it unless their house is being foreclosed, right? And then another one is going to hit someone else's hands who are just like that, and then more and more and more and more, and eventually you're going to see this supply and demand dynamic really play out in interesting ways. And you see that in Yu-Gi-Oh, and you see that in Pokemon. These permanent holders who have no reason to sell. Why? Because they have a personal connection with their asset. They have a personal connect. They have an attachment, a psychological attachment. And so you don't see that with the token. Just the
money. Yeah,
exactly. And you don't see that with the token. The token is the token, but with the asset, it's different. So I definitely have very strong sentimental feelings about some of the assets in particular, but also a very general positive sentiment about the assets in general. For me personally, though, I just prefer to have more Omi than collectibles because that's just my style. I like to keep this. I like to keep things simple, but I anticipate that over time, actually, that ratio is probably going to skew more into the collectibles. I'm probably going to be spending Omi to buy these collectibles once that feature comes around.
Okay, so when Omi to NFT comes out, you think you'll be taking advantage of liquidating some of your Omi holdings in order to pick up some collectibles?
Yeah, I can definitely see myself doing that. And by the way, like I said, I wasn't expecting to complete 30 sets. I was thinking, okay, I'll have a few here. Maybe I'll get this one or that one, and maybe But you know, one thing leads to another, and you get into it. And by the way, I've seen this with so many of my friends. I've seen this in so many people in the community. One thing leads to another with these collectibles. And the same thing, you go and you see Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and other physical collect. One thing leads to another. You get one collectible. Ooh, that feels nice to own this one. Let me play around with it. You get an immediate idea of, aha, what if I get this one too? Let me pair these two together. Ah, it would be so cool if I had them all. Wouldn't that be nice? Ah, yes, let me do that. Let me put this. Okay, so you see how this all plays out, and then you hold them and you like keeping them. You like knowing that you have them. You go to sleep knowing you have them. It's just very interesting how it all plays out.
Oh, it's incredible. And I mean, even for my purposes, I do have to say, Shaq was making fun of you in the comment section because you said you were more on the Omi side, but you know, you just casually got 30 sets completed. So I thought that was a little funny, but I mean, for my purposes, I think I have 24, 25 sets completed now.
Nice,
so I mean, yeah, so I'm not doing terribly.
No, that's great, dude.
I consider myself pretty fortunate, all things considered, but I'm fully tapped out now. I don't have any more any more funds to kind of throw at these things, and I'm in a position where I just don't feel like I can justify selling anything to liquidate to get more money. I'm attached. Like I have the I don't know about you with your most valuable collectibles, but I have the Amazing Spider-Man #1 secret rare comic book, which is, you know, probably my only 5-figure collectible that I'm holding, or comic, I guess technically. And then I have like Lucky, which is probably my second highest. I made a big mistake that people like to point out to me in every live stream, that I sold the secret rare Spider-Man animated. Yeah. So we're just not even going to talk about that one. But what is your either, you know, we'll do both. What is your most prized collectible? That's the collectible. It doesn't matter how much money it's worth, but you just love it. It's your favorite collectible or comic for that matter, and you won't let it go. And then, you know, second question is what is your most, if you were to sell it right now, just based on the floor, what is your most valuable collectible?
Okay, so my most prized collectible, it would probably be Bubbles from Powerpuff Girls. Because when I came to America, in my country before I came to America, we didn't have like, you know, TV or anything because we were really poor. And then when I came to America, we had Cartoon Network on the TV. Okay. And that to me was just mind blowing that there are cartoons on the TV and they're all the time available there. And the Powerpuff Girls are playing all the time. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. The Powerpuff Girls, and they're flying around, and I was just like, I can't even explain to you how I felt as a kid with that. And Bubbles was always my favorite because she was the goody two shoe of the group, you know? Yeah. So and the fact that she's the rarest of them, it kind of adds to it. I like that. That she's only like 600 editions. So yeah, man, that one's definitely my favorite.
That honestly, man, that's a feel good story though, and like it makes perfect sense, right? Like you said, like, you can associate with that, and you know, coming from, you know, somewhere where you didn't even have access to that, to now being able to own one of a very low mint collectible it's like, you know,
right. And you asked me what the most valuable is. I believe it's my Secret Rare King, my Secret Rare Avengers comic. I have 9 of them though. I have nine copies of them. So yeah, that's my most valuable one.
See, I knew that coming into that, because this is actually how this conversation was started. We were having a conversation, and that is how I found you in the first place. I actually didn't even know how much Omi you were holding until earlier today when we started talking. So that was that went from we're having this interview to we're definitely having this interview, and it's going to be live, and everyone's going to be watching it. And because I mean, here's the thing, not that there's anything against it, because I still love having the conversation, but you know, not as many people care necessarily about the collectible, but I know everyone cares about the token because it underpins everything. So you have 9 secret rare Avengers Kang #8. There's only 250 of those, I believe. And is that 250 including the mints that they removed? Like 250 total, or is there less?
Oh yeah, it is including the mints. If you don't include those, it's 225.
Okay, so 225. Wow. So you own like 3 or 4% of all of those, I guess, then?
Yeah, I guess.
Wow. And I haven't looked at the floor recently, but they were in the 30s last time I saw. I think they dropped maybe down to 25, roughly.
Yeah, it's like 20K the floor.
20K. So
Yeah.
what are your, I mean, 9 is a lot to own. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, so like, do you have a plan like in the back of your mind? Like, are you going to, you know, give it to family, donate it, hold on to it, sell a couple? Like, do you have a thought? Because I mean, you're never going to be short on cash with the amount of Omi that you're holding. So are you just holding it because you like it, or is it an investment as well?
Well, first of all, I do like it because have you seen the cover? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Have you seen the cover? It is so cool. I mean, the dude is just chilling there with his weapon. It's awesome. I mean, I love it. I love the white background and the purple color scheme to it. But also, you know, King is set to be the next major villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay, so he's going to play a really big role in the plot going forward, and it's supposed to interconnect the various, you know, threads of how it all plays out. So I think it's a pretty significant sort of piece. In addition to being the first super limited edition comic, you know, so there are fundamental reasons I would say I bought that one.
Okay.
To answer the question about what I'm gonna do with it, I don't anticipate, like I said in one of my tweets, I'm not selling for jack squat. So maybe I'll give one out to a friend or something.
Cool.
That's certainly possible. You know, in fact, it's probable, to be quite honest. So yeah, I don't think I'll be selling them, but yeah, perhaps I'll give one out or something like that.
Yeah, to a certain YouTuber that hit 1,000 subs recently. I mean, no, I'm not gonna name any names, but
I see where you're going. I know what you're trying to do. I see it in your eyeballs. I see it.
No, that's cool, man. No, I think that's like you said, that's awesome, and it's something that you can hold for a long period of time, and you understand the catalysts behind them as to what's going to make it more valuable. And I think, you know, I made that mistake when I stole the Spider-Man. I panicked and I paper handed it, and that's why I'm so bullish on the comic, because I know that the new movie or whatever's coming out in November, and all of these things that I think might raise the value. So like you said, it's really about understanding what makes a collectible valuable, and the not just the intrinsic value of it, but the external factors that are affecting it. So I have it up on the screen now because it's a nice segue. But Falinor says, is he going to buy the Thors 2 also 225 minted? So, you know, mint number obviously isn't everything, but that's the only other comic that has that low of mints. Like, does a comic book like that appeal to you just because it's low mint, or is it specifically the Kang that you like because of the reasons that you've already mentioned?
Well, the scarcity really does. It's a big factor for me. Okay. Scarcity does appeal to me. The Thor one I haven't really looked into yet. I just haven't really taken a look into the significance of it, or I haven't had a chance really to look into it. So for right now, I don't know if I'm gonna be interested in getting it. But the scarcity is really important to me, right? The 007 movie tickets, I offered 50 million Omi for either number 1 or number 7, and the offer still stands, by the way, to anybody who might, you know, have it or come across somebody who has it. The offer still stands. You know, I'm willing to pay. What is it like? It's like near $400,000 now for one of those. Scarcity is really, really important. And again, because of the distributed nature of these collectibles over time, they reach permanent hands, and as they do, the availability on the market decreases, and it's just amplified so much by 600 versus 250. It's a big difference. You might not seem like that much, like, okay, what's 50%? It's actually quite a big difference in terms of how quick you reach those threshold levels where the price just skyrockets because nobody's wanting to sell. So, and just on a general point, I think the comics are going to do really well, by the way. I think they're going to do really, really well, because right now the comics, they don't really have any cool utility except, you know, you can read them and you can put them in AR and stuff like that. Right. But I imagine that there's going to come a time when you can use them in your showroom. You can put them up as posters and perhaps do other things with them. So the ability to show them off in novel ways is coming. And I think it's really going to skyrocket them. And by the way, just think about, in general terms, what this means for these comics. Like, will there ever be, think about it, will there ever be another secret, like, will there ever be another NFT of Spider-Man, the first comic ever made?
True.
Will there? Will there?
No,
what do you think?
There'll never be a first, right? Like, there may be others, like, but there'll never be a first. Like,
but will there even be others?
No, and you're right. You're right. Well, I mean, I mean, Marvel's comic library is so expansive that I'm sure they could release a comic every single day for the next 8 years or 10 years and never
But
run out
not
of
Spider-Man
comics.
'1.
But not Spider-Man #1. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% right. And that's why, when my wife pulled it, it was, and not to say that you don't come from humble beginnings and everything. I mean, obviously we've talked about your backstory, but I mean, like I have never seen, 6 figures in my bank account, let alone anything higher than that. So, to own something that I purchased for $7 that went up as high as $16,000 at one point, like that's a significant amount of money for me, right? So, it was pretty crazy. But I remember when it was at like $6,000, my wife was like, let's sell this thing. Like, let's sell it. And I was like, no, like I'm not doing it, because I'm hearing people talk about this thing and it could be worth 6 figures one day. And so, it's crazy to think about, how fortunate we are in the opportunities that we've had. And if you own 9 Kangs, you didn't get them all on the drop. So I'm sure you've, spent a little bit of money to acquire all those. So what would you say you've roughly put into your collection, and how much would you say it's roughly worth right now based on today's values?
Man, I don't know. I know I spent about $90,000 on the Kings. So about 10,000, I believe, each was about 10,000 each. So
wow.
Yeah. So right now it's about double of that. And then the collectibles, I don't really know. I think I put like around 100,000, and now it's like 3 times that, maybe 2 times that. Honestly, I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it. But yeah, significantly more than what I put into it. So yeah.
I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands, probably not a million, but we're talking hundreds of thousands.
We're talking hundreds of thousands, definitely not a million, not even $500,000. So, but I know people who have over $1 million worth of stuff in their BV accounts. So it's not unheard of that you'll find somebody with that level of conviction in the collectibles.
For sure. So I have a question for you about that. And someone asked me to ask you this question before we started, when I put out the original post on Twitter that we were having this conversation. So 2 things. First, I put out that I'm doing a whale interview. Yeah. Do you consider yourself a whale / are you offended if someone, like, if I say, hey, there's a whale in the community, like, does that, like, do you not like that title? Like, does that bother you, or how do you feel about that?
That's such a funny question. I love that question because it's so funny.
Someone messaged me on Twitter. They're like, does it, do you think it bothers him that you call him a whale? And I was like, you know what? Maybe that is insensitive and I should ask him. So.
Well, thank you. It's a considerate question, at least. But no, I don't identify with labels like that. Like, in my view, just on a very quick side note, in my view, the self is an illusion. Our very sense of being a self is an illusion. The self does not exist. This is actually the thesis of Buddhism. So you're probably like, what the hell? This dude's answering my question with this deep ass Buddhist philosophy. Like, dude, chill. But okay, I can't resist. It's like it's my life passion. Of all the things in life, that's the #1 thing for me.
You know what? I am happy that you believe and stand for something, and that it guides the principles of how you live your life. Because there's a lot of people, and I mean, not to judge and whatever, but I mean, even myself, there's a lot of times when it's like, what's your direction, right? Like why are you doing X, Y, Z? You wake up in the morning. Why do I do this? Whatever. So no, I think it's great that you feel like, so you don't mind being called a whale. I mean, not that we're going to throw around the term regularly, but that's good to know. How do you feel about, and not to put you on the spot, but you told me I was allowed to be Anderson Cooper, so I'm going to do it. How do you feel about other whales in the community, specifically in relation to, and you may know these people, you may be in, Telegram or other private groups with them. How do you feel about some of this, questionable price action that has taken place over the last couple of months?
Good question. First of all, I don't know any of the whales. I don't know any of the other whales. All I know is Randy Chavez, who has like 170 million Omi. Okay, I believe that's the only other person I know who's considered a whale. Okay. So I don't know any of the other ones. Yes, some of the price action is questionable with the whales. I think it's a legitimate concern. However, it's not an absolute concern. It's on the very low level of concerns for me, because I'm a fundamentals investor first and foremost. So in my view, this type of price manipulation is made possible by the fact that the liquidity isn't here yet. Organic demand for the token isn't here yet. The demand right now is purely speculative because there's no true utility that can be had right now. In addition to that is the very significant consideration that the token is available on exchanges which aren't considered tier one, on in other words, Coinbase or Binance. I think once it's available on Coinbase and or Binance, we're going to see a much different dynamic in terms of the ability of whales to exert some sort of significant influence over the price action, simply due to the amount of liquidity that will basically be injected into the token, and the ability of the market to absorb sell orders. So I don't really have a big issue with that. I'm one of actually personally, I think I'm an innocent whale. I'm one of those cute angel whales. I didn't get my tokens at 0.0000000 whatever. I paid probably a price that other people can relate to, 0.0046, half a penny basically.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of people watching can be like, yeah, that's around what I paid too. So I'm right there with you, brothers, all right, and sisters. Okay, I paid just about the same amount as you guys. Okay, so and I'm not one of those guys who's gonna dump the token on you or try to manipulate the price or anything like that. No, I have no interest in that. I like the project. I like the project a lot. I like the psychology of collecting. I really like David. I really like Dan. I like these brands. I like what's coming. I like everything about it, all things considered. We spoke about reservations, but all things considered, I mean, this is just an incredible opportunity in my view. I mean, I cannot tell you how lucky all of us are listening to this right now, that we know of this, that we're aware of it, when the vast majority of people are not. I mean, just count your blessings.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're hitting the nail right on the head on that, Aaron. And I think a lot of people would agree with you. And I think for what it's worth, and including myself as a little minnow in the big pond that is this project, I'm very grateful and appreciative to hear your outlook and opinion on the project, and to know that, a significant amount of the project's tokens are in the hands of someone like yourself, who clearly has a good head on his shoulders and isn't going to just sell out at the first sign of dollar and cents. Like you said, you're not one of those. And not that there's anything wrong with this. Like, congratulations to anyone that bought in 2018 or whatever, got in early and saw the opportunity, and maybe invested quite a bit less, but still has quite a bit of OMI. Like good for you. You saw the vision and you stuck through it. But I mean, they're possibly seeing money that they've never seen before. Whereas for you, who's invested $6 million, to see $10 million isn't anything crazy that you haven't seen before, because you've already seen millions of dollars. So, if I had invested $10,000 and I made $10 million, that changes my perspective on $10 million versus if I've invested $6 million and I see $10 million.
Just to be fair, Foster, I mean, this is all new to me as well. Like I said, I technically I only became a millionaire this year in February. Okay. So this is like pretty new to me as well. So for me to go all in with just all this money that I never saw before, imagine 6 million, you get 6 million and you're like, okay, I'm going to put it into OMI, this altcoin with technically low market cap at the time. I mean, that speaks to the level of conviction that I have in the project, and my own just fundamental assessment of the team and the value proposition and the vision. And I think probably more than anything, as we discussed, the future that we're headed into more generally. So yeah.
Okay, that's a very valid point. So with that in mind, because I see a couple questions running in about it, and we're talking about the token right now.
Okay.
Do you plan to buy any more, or are you content with the number that you're at currently?
I am content with the amount that I have. I don't plan on buying more. Okay. I'm content.
Fair enough. And like we discussed, I mean, obviously we're not going to touch on your, independent, hey, I'm selling X amount at this price, but I think it's probably fair to say at this point, you're not selling when we hit to 0.009 kind of thing. Or do you have any thoughts on maybe when you may look to maybe even just sell a little bit? Like, what is a milestone for you that you go, okay, yeah, we're at a point where maybe a little bit of take profit isn't the worst idea in the world. Even if it's not a number, it's just a catalyst.
Okay, well, first of all, I am not willing to sell if it means that my activity is going to significantly hurt the price of the token.
Okay.
That's first and foremost, you know. So for me, I think before I even consider selling, I would want to see a Coinbase or a Binance listing.
Okay.
Okay, I want the market to be able to absorb over a healthy period of time any kind of significant sell orders that I put in.
Okay.
That being said, my plan is to keep 1 billion tokens, to keep about 1 billion tokens. You know, so I'm looking at maybe at least 1 billion to keep. I'm not going to say how much
That's
exactly I
fair. Yeah.
have,
Yeah. I was gonna say.
but I'd like to keep at least 1 billion. So
Okay.
I will sell, however much,
However much
I
that
feel
is
like,
between what you
yeah,
hold. Yeah.
yeah,
You don't hold 2 billion, but you hold more than 1 billion, and roughly,
yeah.
or and yeah, somewhere in that range, and then we go from there. So no, that makes that makes sense. I think, like you said, it at some point, regardless of the conviction that you have in the project, money still talks, and you'd still like to be able to put some aside, or maybe invest in something else. So
Well, yeah, just maybe
with that in mind, do you
buy a
have
cute little
any?
house or something.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have any other NFTs, or do you want to quickly touch on any of the other investments you have outside of Veve?
Do I have any other NFTs? I'm trying to think. Do I? No, I don't. I think, yeah, all I have are the VV NFTs.
Okay. And do you
Um,
still hold a little bit of Cardano or
yeah, I do.
Bitcoin,
I
or?
do. Yeah, I have a decent Cardano bag, and I also have XRP.
Oh, okay.
XRP, I actually made fun of it for a long time, but my recent reassessment of it has led me to believe that there is a non-zero chance that the vision of XRP is actually materialized. And I just bought some for the hedge, as a hedge against that type of outcome in the future. Because if it does what it wants to do, what it's aiming to do, man, that thing is going to be beyond what anybody is currently thinking of it as. Like, well, some moon boys are thinking like, tremendous numbers. But anyways, yeah, I have some XRP and a lot of Cardano, but mostly Omi. I think at least 80% Omi.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, do you have? We know there's a couple catalysts coming out with the Master Collector program and the Only Utility program. We should be getting
Yes,
those
yes,
articles hopefully any day
yes,
now.
yes.
Do you have any thoughts about what you may do with? Well, firstly, what do you think what that program is going to look like, and then what do you think you're going to do with the OMI that you hold based on the program?
Well, let me first, if I may rephrase your own question,
For sure.
I would like to just basically identify which of the coming catalysts is going to be most pivotal for the price of OMI increasing. Of all the things that are coming, which of them is probably the most important for the price of OMI to increase? In my view, I think it's OMI to NFT, the ability to buy and sell these collectibles with OMI.
Okay.
I think that's going to be the most important because right now it's not that easy. You have to use a credit card to buy
Yeah.
like 350, I believe, gems at a time. So it doesn't really allow people to inject a lot of liquidity into the ecosystem through that method. They have to go through like third parties to buy, with USDT, and use middlemen and escrow services and all that, which I did. And it's very cumbersome and even risky, actually,
Yeah, well, I
because
was
it's
gonna
easy
say
to
there's a
fall into
lot of risk
scams.
associated with it too. Yeah.
It
So
really is, yeah. And by the way, a lot of scamming is very sophisticated. So please, everybody who's listening, be very careful. I would not suggest even going down that route at all, just because scammers are very, very sophisticated nowadays. But that being said, I think OMI to NFT is going to change really the utility for OMI the most out of anything coming forward. I think that, coupled with the MTL, is going to give so much more legitimacy to the NFTs, and it's going to
right.
really open the floodgates for other people to basically look at the collectibles and be like, okay, yeah, I can now safely put money into there, and I can do so as much as I want. So the crypto rich can easily take their Bitcoin and ETH earnings and convert them, let's say on Binance or on Coinbase, to OMI, and then basically flood the market with purchases. And as new collectibles come out, and as the number of users increases, this is just what was his name? Brock had a
Yeah, Brock McBlockchain, or the interview with
yeah,
Tap Trades.
I like
Yep.
that guy. He had an interview with Tap Trades, and the phrase he kept using was layers upon layers, and I really like that phrase, layers upon layers. That stuck with me, and I agree with how he described that. That's how I see it as well.
Nice.
I think it's going to be layers upon layers, and I think it's going to play out in ways that most of us really don't currently predict. So I'm really bullish on the token in the medium term and in the long term, obviously.
Yeah. So you, I mean, obviously with the migration to immutable and being listed as an ERC20 token, you threw the name of a couple of exchanges around there. Do you believe, like, what is, because the team has already mentioned that they have some exchange listings lined up post migration to immutable, and that we should see a couple of them by the end of this year, even if it doesn't come in that time frame. What exchanges either would you like to see, or that you do imagine we will see in the near term for the token?
What I would like to see is Coinbase and Binance.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, Coinbase for
Shocker.
American users and Binance for everybody else. Once you have those two, you're good to go. So when do I think they will come? I don't know. The sooner the better, obviously, because of the concept of area under the curve, which is it's a concept in graphing. Basically, the sooner you get this effect, the more impact it will have on all subsequent trading activity. The sooner Coinbase or Binance, because like if we get a Coinbase listing right now, the price will pump, right? Obviously, but the price pumping in the short term is actually small compared to the benefit that's accrued over time as a result of the ability to trade on that platform. So it's actually really insignificant compared to the benefit that's extended over a long period of duration indefinitely into the future. So the sooner we get that, the better. Hopefully it's this year. I know they have a person, from what I understand, they have a person who's assigned to contacting with the exchanges. I imagine that.
Mike Duffy, the CTO. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't see why they wouldn't have reached out to the exchanges by now to let them know, hey, we're migrating, and look at our token. I mean, look at our project. Check us out. By the way, check us out on the App Store. Look who's grossing number in the top 10. Check us out. See what we're doing. It's really big deal what Veve is doing right now. It's really, really big deal, and so I don't see why the token wouldn't be listed as soon as possible as an ERC token. So I hope it's this year. I really hope it is. I can see it happening this year. If it happens next year, fine. But I hope it's this year.
Yeah, I mean, I hope, like you said, the concept that you're speaking on with being listed sooner gets some more impact later. I'm very hopeful that we will see some more exchange listings to add that buy pressure and liquidity into the market. If nothing less, to just take advantage of whatever bull run is coming for NFTs and the crypto market as a whole in Q4. I do very much see media outlets and other catalysts happening in the crypto market. Think, as an example, TikTok making a deal with Immutable X to mint moments, Twitter adding in a profile picture verification for NFTs on their platform. There's a lot of catalysts outside with major companies coming into crypto right now. So I agree with you. I think an exchange listing or multiple exchange listings of a Binance or a Coinbase, or even, as J-Man says here, KuCoin or Gemini, I think any of those would be absolutely fantastic for the project. And I think for those of you that don't know, the reason why we haven't been listed on a lot of these exchanges is because the team ran into issues a few months back when they were looking into exchanges. The Go chain, which is the chain that the OMI token is currently underpinned by, is not supported by a lot of these major exchanges. So once we migrate to immutable, we will be an ERC20 token, which is the Ethereum standard. And that is essentially supported by every exchange. It's the huge medium for what tokens are built on. And because of that, we will have access to be able to be listed on these exchanges. And like you said, Aaron, to me, it's very obvious that, even when CoinMarketCap released that ranking last month, and the Omi token was the highest grossing token this year. Like, it's very obvious that these exchanges have, have heard of Omi and know what it's capable of. And I wouldn't be surprised to see, multiple listings and exchanges come, very shortly after that migration.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously you think, based on the catalysts, the exchanges, you think Omi to NFT is going to be a huge one, at least for you as someone who owns a ton of Omi, looking for ways to spend it. I mean, you have so much of it. We know the land, when it comes out in the VVverse, will also be a big catalyst and will burn Omi. Do you think that you would be willing to part ways with some of your Omi in order to buy land and buy NFTs, even though you understand that, like, let's say you're doing it at 2 cents and it goes to $1, that's a 50x, unrealized gain that you're losing out on. Like, would you be okay with taking that hit to buy some of these items at that price level?
Yeah, well, for me, it's a little different. But like, yeah, even if the opportunity cost is present, like, in other words, even if I think Omi will outperform land in the long term, I still might buy land because I mean, it's cool, right?
Yeah.
It's a social currency of its own
Yeah.
to have land and to say I own the #1 spot in the VVverse, right in the center of everything. So yeah, I can see myself being compelled to part ways with Omi, even if I think that there's an opportunity cost for doing so. And the same with collectibles, by the way. I think Omi in the long term will outperform the 007 movie ticket, but I'm still willing to part ways with 50 million Omi to get #1 or #7 of that. So yeah, I can see myself doing that.
Fair enough. So, we're parting ways with Omi in those regards. I touched on it briefly, but we didn't actually talk about it. So the staking program that's coming in at some point, we know it'll be announced shortly, and then it should come out, hopefully shortly after that. Like how much Omi, and here's the thing, and I don't know how you feel about it, but they said something about there being 3 levels, which didn't really make sense to me, because 3 levels is not enough to cover the huge expanse of the different levels that people have. In a previous video, I let people know that the average, that the median, the 50th percentile is 86,000 Omi. Okay. And to be in the top 15%, you own over 1 million Omi, and the top 2% hold over 10 million Omi. But now, I mean, even if you talk about the top 2%, I'm in the top 2%. But you still own 100 times roughly more Omi than I do. So yeah, we're both in the top 2%, but the top 2% is such a drastic, it sounds like, oh, it's only 2 percentile points, but it's massive. And then the difference between, being in the top 2% and the top 50%, could be 11 million Omi, which is a significant amount of money. So how do you do you have any guesses on how you think that this is going to roll out? And then, based on those guesses, do you have like a rough idea in the back of your mind about how much you'd be willing to stake for it?
Well, I don't have any guesses, but I mean, the tiers that they're talking about, do you think that they mean that in terms of the quantity of Omi that's being staked? Is that what you think they mean?
I think so. I mean, it's really hard to say, right? Like I don't know why it wouldn't be an amount, because what else could it be? Like, I guess it could be a dollar value, but even then a dollar value is still an amount of Omi. So like, I don't know what else it could be, but like, let's say hypothetically they said like level 1, you need to stake 10,000 Omi. And then level 2 is 1 million Omi to get all the, like, well, how is that fair for someone that has 900,000 Omi?
I hope it will be cool if David or Dan ever listens to this stream, because I do kind of feel like I have a good idea in terms of what they could do. Yeah, they have the tiers, and I feel that the tiers probably are in terms of quantity of Omi, right? Like if you own between 10,000 to 100,000, then you're tier 1. Hypothetically, this is an example, or 100,000 to 1 million, you're tier 2, or 1 million plus, you're tier 3. I think you make a really good point about how the Omi is distributed. There's a lot of whales, right? So in order for the token to do well, we need to incentivize the whales to stake their Omi. How do you incentivize? Like, let's say the highest tier 3, it tops out at 1 million Omi, right? Let's just say hypothetically. then that means the whales have no incentive to stake more than 1 million Omi, because anything above 1 million, they're going to get no additional benefit.
Yeah.
In my view, I think that there should be some type of proportional benefit, or at least diminishing return benefit to staking more Omi on top of whatever you would stake for the whales. And but the benefit is not something that makes the dynamic that really significantly hurts the dynamic of the collecting ecosystem. That doesn't give the whales such an advantage that they get to step over everybody and grab like all the drops or something like that.
Right.
But I feel like they could come up with some sort of idea or benefit or social currency, not a currency per se, but a social benefit within the ecosystem for the whales, to incentivize them to stake as much as possible, and in addition, incentivize people to own as much Omi as possible. Because if you tell people, hey, after you stake 1 million Omi, no additional benefits for staking will be accrued, none, then there's really, as far as staking is concerned, there's no reason to own more Omi than 1 million.
And that's what scares the you know what out of me. Like I like almost get anxiety thinking about it. I'm like, what are they incentivizing people with to ensure that they're staking? And don't get me wrong, they're very intelligent. I'm sure that they've thought about all of this. Like this, it's not like we're saying this now and they're like, oh my God, we never thought about that. Like, but it's just like it scares me because, like you said, like if the top level is, let's say hypothetically 10 million Omi, it's just a random number, but whatever, that's most of my Omi. And if it's a solid reward, then yeah, I'm going to stake 10 million Omi to get the top level reward. But for you to stake 10 million Omi, okay, that's great, but that's a drop in the bucket for you. Like that doesn't accomplish anything, because now, like, we don't need all of these people that have 50,000 Omi to lock up. Like, I mean, it adds up after a while, don't get me wrong, but like those aren't the people we need to focus on to have staking. Like we need to focus on the people that have hundreds of millions, if not billions of Omi. Like those are the ones we need to have lock up their liquidity, because they are the ones that have the ability to most drastically affect price action.
Absolutely.
And they're the ones that have the most tokens that, if they're locked up, will have the biggest effect on price. So it's like, to me, I'm hoping, like, I hope that they come out with like, and don't get me wrong, like if you want to give out like an exclusive collectible that only whales that have over 100 million Omi can own, like, yeah, some in the community might be like, oh, well, why is it fair? Whatever. But, well, it's fair because it's making everything that you hold more valuable. And if that's the price that we need to pay in order to incentive, like literally, like, hey, whales, you stake 1 billion Omi and we will give you one of the highest rarity of every drop that's over 1,000 editions automatically. Okay. You don't have to compete for it or something like that. Right? Like something so that they go like, yeah, like I'm being recognized for my effort and I actually want to do this, versus like, hey, can you just like kind of do us a favor? Like, it doesn't really benefit you, but like really you'd be doing me a solid. It's like, okay, well, no one's gonna do that. So
first of all, I'm really glad you agree with me on that. Okay. But second of all, I just want to point out that I'm not in any way arguing in favor of this because I want some sort of linear return for staking my Omi. I don't really care, right? I mean, yeah, it would be cool to get whatever perk it might be for staking 1 billion or plus Omi. But for me, the primary reason for wanting a dynamic like that is obviously because staking is very positive for the price action.
Yes.
So here's the thing: you said about like, oh, you can give them a collectible or something. There are many innocent ways by which you can incentivize whales to stake their Omi. Like, you could give them a collectible and not make it tradable, right? You can give them a collectible that they cannot sell. That's an example. Just an example. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that we need to understand. Showing off is like, I can't even express how fundamental it is to collecting. Showing off is absolutely fundamental to collecting. So I'm sure there are ways by which you can incentivize whales to stake their Omi, to give them some type of benefit by which they can show off relative to others, like give them a halo or something in the avatar that has different levels of light intensity. Just off the top of my head, by the way, as we're speaking.
Yeah.
Or like collectibles or a pet that follows them around or something like that. And not just for the whales, but anybody like yourself with 10 million Omi that can participate in the higher tier. But basically the point is that both of us are making is that do not cap it off. Do not tell people after this amount, there's absolutely nothing to be gained in terms of staking. There should be at least something. There should be at least something. And if that means something that's innocent and not tradable and just social, just has social showing off value, then that's fine. Just make it something at least. Give people some reason to want to have more Omi, or like, to want to stake their
or
Omi.
like in the Veve verse, give them like a monument in the museum, like, you know, like it's like a leaderboard, like an interactive leaderboard.
Oh yeah,
like this person has staked this much Omi, and then like anyone in the world that uses that can walk in and be like, yo, like this person is legit. They help this project be successful. Like give someone that sense of belonging and value that makes them feel welcome. Because I have, and I'll be honest, I've heard a lot of people express concerns after the AMA that took place with Dan breaking down the program. And once again, this isn't a FUD piece. This isn't to say that it's going to be a terrible program or anything like that. But I have heard some people say, well, you know, I'm not making any money from staking it. And it sounds like staking it is just going to give me, you know, points, or is going to allow me to wager some of my Omi to get in on drops. Why would I give up a deflationary currency that's going to increase in value to wager to be able to buy a collectible? Like I don't want to do that. And so I've heard people express some concerns about that. So I am hopeful that there are like a multitude of benefits that you will get from staking to really incentivize. And if not, I hope that the exchanges have a way to offer staking, although I don't know how it would work from a securities perspective, but like there needs to be something to actively encourage the reduction of the circulating supply. Because like if we had like a dope, like an absolutely awesome Masters Collector or an Omi utility program, like if we locked up 50% of all the tokens that are in the circulating supply on top of what would happen to our like market cap while that was happening, like we could literally in a course of a month go from where we are right now to like 50 cents to $1. Like just absolutely go parabolic. If the incentives are correct. But if they're not, they're going to have to come up with more creative ways to burn the Omi because it's going to get, I don't know. And of course, I don't know. I don't think any of us know what the correct answer is. And of course, I'm sure we'll have our opinions and feelings once the articles come out. But it's an interesting conversation. I just want to circle back quickly because I think it's an important question based on the amount of money that you've made. Jake asks, can you ask him about all of his recent success in crypto? What are his plans with taxes? Will he have to liquidate Omi to pay taxes? Have you put any thought into that at all? Because I know you said, you know, you've made, I mean, basically all the money that you've made has been this year, both in selling Cardano and buying Omi. Like, have you put any thoughts into what that might look like for you?
I have, and the amount that I spent on Omi that I sold, the amount of Cardano that I sold to get Omi is not all of the Cardano that I sold. So I took into account the amount that I would need. So I've sold additional Cardano to be able to pay my taxes. So yeah, I have. I've already taken care of that part.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, I'm sure a lot of people will be happy to hear that. So for guys who maybe don't understand the wraparound circumstance that would lead to in this would be, you know, if he had to sell his Omi to pay for taxes, obviously, then he's putting negative sell pressure on the token. So the fact that he's already taken care of his taxes means that he doesn't have to touch his Omi to sell it, which means that we don't get any negative price action based on that. So that is, that's awesome to hear. I'm glad that you are on top of that. Although given the conversation that we've had thus far, I probably shouldn't be surprised, but it's good all the same. So, I mean, obviously, Omi and the Veve collectibles are the major point of what I wanted to have this conversation with you about. We've been going for almost 2 hours now, and I don't know how much you've been paying attention, but just we've had pretty much consistently over 100 people watching this entire time. So there were a lot of people that are very interested to hear your perspectives and what you feel about the project and anything that you want to say. I don't know that I have any specific questions for you at this point. I think it's been a great conversation. So I might just open up the floor to you, and before we wrap things up, kind of, anything at all that's on your mind or that you want to talk about in relation to the project or the token, anything that you've been thinking, any messages that you'd like to pass along to the community. And yeah, the floor is yours.
Well, I just want to say I think we're living in the most interesting times in human history. And I think we're all very fortunate. Yeah, I think we're all very fortunate, and I really like the community in Veve. I like going on Twitter. I just like the positive vibes, So yeah, keep that up, you guys. Honestly, it's probably the coolest part of investing is to see that. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if you see anybody having any interesting questions. Maybe you can...
Yeah, well, I'm just looking, like Clem mentioned, and it's a good point. It goes back to our conversation about staking Omi, and he brings up a good point. He says our whales now are generally individual investors, and these additional perks would satisfy them. But when we get on Coinbase or Binance, what do you think institutional investors want for staking? Before you answer that, I might just say quickly my thoughts. I don't know that institutional investors would even be buying the token with the intention of staking it. Like, I don't know if any of the major corporations that buy Bitcoin right now are buying it to stake Bitcoin or Ethereum and vice versa. I think they're buying it because they understand the future value of what it holds. And given the fact that the Omi token is deflationary and will have several forms of utility, I don't know that, it being stakeable or, being stakeable, but not for the rewards that they would want as an institution, would be enough to discourage them from buying the Omi token. But do you have any thoughts on that, Aaron, about what will happen when we start to see kind of institutional investing into the token?
Well, I think institutional investing is a probable phenomenon going forward. I just don't think it's going to be fueled by the incentive to stake it. Because for me, it just seems that the incentive is mostly within the ecosystem itself. I don't see the institutional investors really trying to participate in the drops or trying to create their own avatars or trying to whatever the benefits may be. I don't see them participating in that way. Staking, generally speaking, is in terms of ROI, like you get 5%. With Cardano, you get like about 5% per year, right? So that's not what we're talking about with Omi staking. So yeah, I don't think it really applies in the same way.
Yeah, no, and I think that makes perfect sense. And yeah, like I totally agree with you. I don't think that the institutional investors will particularly care about being able to stake or not being able to stake. And I don't know if you remember or not, but David Yu and an AMA a few weeks back brought up a point when he was speaking with the Chinese investors about having like groups that want to invest like $3 billion into NFTs, not specifically just Veve, but in general, like looking to invest a lot of money. So I think it's going to be very interesting as we start to see the institutional money come into the space, similarly to how we saw institutional money come into Bitcoin and Ethereum this year and the huge increase that we saw in their market caps. I think that, for a coin that only has about $1.5 billion right now as a current market cap, I think that, very quickly you could see some institutional investing and buying, and very quickly it would go up quite substantially.
Right, I agree with that.
What is the license? I mean, obviously you've for those of you that may not have been here earlier, Aaron started off by collecting Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon cards with $5,000, and he was able to flip that into $100,000 before he invested in crypto, and finally with Omi, which is where he holds his position now. What is one license, maybe outside of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh!, because I think that's fairly obvious that you'd like to see those. What is one license outside of those two that you would really like to see come onto the platform that you would be excited as a collector to collect?
Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh. I'm sorry, I had to do that.
That's all right. I love that.
I just love Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm sorry. It is what it is. I love Yu-Gi-Oh!
So it's safe to say that you're selling all your Omi when Yu-Gi-Oh! Comes out and you're buying everything.
If Blue Eyes White Dragon comes out, I'll do whatever it takes to secure half the circulating supply.
Oh man.
Yeah, okay. Obviously, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, I think would be just absolutely like game
Yeah.
changing for NFT as a whole. Everything would change after that. But aside from those, me personally, I like Dragon Ball Z. I like other Cartoon Network brands, which they're probably coming. Um, yeah, so I don't think my own personal interests are that interesting or really that out of the norm. But I'm curious to see what other kind of stuff that David has up his sleeve. You know, he said he has something that none of us have could possibly expect. And yeah, I'm curious to see what other kind of stuff he's gonna conjure up in terms of
Yeah.
licenses. I think we're gonna see some really strange stuff that in present form we like we couldn't even anticipate.
Well, I had someone message me on Twitter yesterday, and I apologize if you're watching right now. I can't remember the exact name of the person that did it, but they said, "Hey, I think I know what that license is that David is talking about. I think it's IKEA." And I was like, "Oh, that's really interesting. Like you could
Oh
own
yeah,
IKEA furniture in your house in the
yeah,
the VV-verse." I was like,
that would be
but
cool.
it just goes to like because they've talked about like you'll be able to change your light bulbs, you'll be able to change the floor. Like it really sounds like they want this
Yeah,
to be a fully immersive
yeah,
experience. And he
right.
did say stay tuned for the designer brands to come on board. And
Yeah,
he said in that
yeah,
AMA or the impromptu Twitter space, I should say, the other day, he said that they were speaking to art galleries and different things about getting, one of ones and things of that. So
yeah,
it's gonna be pretty crazy, man. Like every month I think is gonna be the
yeah.
biggest month for Veve and Ecomi, and then every month they just consistently
Uh,
outdo
by
themselves.
the
And it's
way,
just,
what you said about like one of ones, yeah. First of all, I like that they dropped a series with only 7 editions, which was the 007. I
yeah,
think that they should do more of that, because it's really going to add a lot of attention and publicity to the project. If you see something like a one of one or a one of 10 going for $1 million or 500,000 or whatever it might be, that's
yeah.
pretty significant. Like you're talking some serious figures there. So yeah, I'd like to see more of that stuff, and it also gives whales an incentive to spend their OMI, to grab those really cool pieces. So yeah, I would like to see some more of that. Yeah.
No, man, I totally agree with you, and there's really so many different avenues and pursuits that they can take, and like Clem mentions,
Yeah.
music, movie licensed NFTs
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
VV verse, seeing the Fortnite success with the
Yeah.
Travis
Yeah.
Barker concert, and how I think
Yeah. Yeah.
Sandbox or Decentraland just recently announced, I guess, that they're doing something like that as well
Mm.
in their space. So yeah, like you said, the future is really endless for the possibilities of what they can do, and we're really truly just at the beginning of what we could be looking forward to in this
Yeah.
project. And it's
Yeah. And I think the user Clem makes a good point about music, movie, licensed NFTs, and all these other verticals that will be coming. Like sports, and it's just that the sheer number of verticals and avenues that this can expand into is really just it's difficult to wrap your mind around it. It can grow into a lot of nooks and crannies of people's fandoms, and just yeah, I can really see it growing into a very, very large ecosystem where the OMI token is valued very, very highly simply because of the liquidity that all of those collectibles capture as more users come in. So, yeah.
definitely. No, I 100% agree with you. And like Dan Schwabel is pointing out right now, who's a great resource for the community. So shout out to Dan, him and Jeremiah for hosting that Twitter space just a few weeks back. Really got people excited about some bigger, more prominent people in the space getting involved in the project, and reminded people of the value of holding these specific collectibles in the communities surrounding them. So Dan hits the nail right on the head with this one when he says, more probably could have been done to advertise the 007 ticket. I personally believe that they probably didn't didn't do it because it was only available in the US. I think it got a fair bit of traction, but I think definitely moving forward as they do these types of drops and worlds first and things of that nature that we do know are coming up, I would imagine that Rogers and Cohen, their marketing firm, will be putting out quite a bit of information for those different drops and to try and get more people involved in the space. And we know that even within the space, people are revisiting this project after being away from a while. We saw Andre Jick, who, for those of you that don't know, is a very large YouTuber who has 1.7 million subscribers. He made a video back in April, right around the time that I first invested, talking about how he invested $150,000 in the token. And he's recently come back into the community and started actually collecting the physical collectibles and seems to be enjoying himself. So just things of that nature. Like, it's not going to take a lot. Bella Porch picks up, Veve and decides to post a TikTok about it, and we're off. Logan Paul starts talking about it again. Like, it's just going to be some of these small catalysts put together that are really going to drive some success. I don't remember if we talked on this or not. I think you said $1 or $10 is possible, but do you have if you had to give me your best guess, all the catalysts that we're hoping align leading into the end of this year, maybe even if you want to extend it over into Q1 of 2022, like what is your end of year price prediction?
Okay.
And what is your prediction, kind of not every year, but kind of leading into maybe we'll say 2025?
Okay. Okay. I'll just give you my best guesses. Okay, my best guesses. I think by the end of the year, my best guess will be around 2 cents.
Okay.
Yeah, by the end of the year, I think around 2 cents makes sense to me. Next year, I think we're going to surpass 10 cents. So yeah, so I think that really that's going to be highly contingent on a Coinbase and or Binance listing. I think that's going to make all the difference in the world. I think once we have that, plus OMI to NFT, and like a big brand dropping like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, which I can see happening next year, I think that's game over. That's game over, man. You're gonna see some really, really tremendous price action, and the hype cycle that we saw when it hit 1 cent. That's going to pale in comparison to the sort of hype cycle we're going to see once things are more established, once the app is more fleshed out, once the exchanges are there, and yeah, like once the influencers are really like into it again in a way that they weren't before.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So you think 2 cents roughly by the end of this year, 10 cents by the end of 2022. Now, obviously, at the beginning of our interview, you did throw around some fairly bullish claims that you believe not only that OMI can reach $1, but that it could reach as high as $10. When you provide those price points, like what is your relative time horizon?
Okay, well, first of all, OMI can hit $1 million per coin. I mean, it can, but obviously it's all about probability. I just have to make that point. I just have to get a little pesky there. But yeah, I think $1 is realistic. I think $10 is obviously a lot less realistic. But I give it. I'll put it this way: I give a $10 OMI at least a 20% chance of happening. At least a 20% chance of happening. I give a $1 OMI, in my own view, at least a 40% chance of happening. A 10 cent OMI, I give it at least a 75 to maybe 85, about 80% chance of happening. So yeah, I'm fairly confident we're going to hit 10 cents. Whether it's next year or maybe a little into some, maybe I suppose it depends on the crypto market as a whole. But I am one of those people who thinks that the tokenomics of OMI and basically the drop dynamics and the psychology of collecting and psychology of an emerging industry and of hype and so many other things does grant it a unique sort of privilege status, so to speak, in a bear market. I think it will outperform other assets in a bear market, and it might even grow in a bear market. So that being said, I mean, there's so much to say about crypto as a whole. Honestly, I don't think we're going to see the types of bear markets we've seen in the past, but I'm not even going to go into that. The point is that my best guess is 2 cents by the end of this year, 10 cents at least next year, and $1 we could see, I would say, probably within 5 years.
Okay. And would you say that those, when you say best cats, are they on the conservative side, or are they on the more bullish side, or are they kind of just right in the middle? You think like average, take both your high and your low, and that's your in-between guess?
Yeah, I would say that's probably my in-between.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my most realistic.
Yeah, and I you know what, I think, to be fair, like that seems to be in line with the sentiment that I think a lot of content creators and people that study technical analysis and the fundamentals of the project, I think that seems to be the going right, shall we say, of what people believe may happen with the project, and I do very much share that sentiment. However, what I will say is, it's very much contingent on the utility that's added to the token. So I think if the utility that's added to the token is very strong, and I think if the staking program appeals to people and we get exchange listings, I could see us going a lot higher than 10 cents by the end of 2022. And the reason behind that is, just simply look at a project like Hex, which has a very similar circulating supply of tokens. But the utility its primary function is the staking of the token, and I think its market cap is only like 232 million right now. But because of the staking functionality and the amount that is locked up and the compounding effect that has on the token price, it went from the exact same price that Omi was back in April to a high of 54 cents or something like that just a month ago. And
okay, yeah, can I just say, for Hex, I'm not sure if it's a fair comparison with Omi. Something is very fishy to me about Hex. Just personally, me, like I said, one of my strong points is really judging or gauging where a person is coming from.
Okay.
I like Charles Hoskinson and David Yu. I think they're visionaries in their own right.
Yeah. Not sure. Sorry
to say it. I don't feel that way about Richard Hart. I find something very fishy and suspicious about his motives. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel about it.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
No, you're right. That's fair. But I mean, even with that rationale behind it, assuming that something hasn't been artificially manipulated in the background, they've still hit the price point that they're at now, based on staking as a utility.
I wouldn't. Okay, we don't have to go into that, but I wouldn't count that out of the realm of possibilities. That's
fair. That's fair. Justin says Hex drama. Yeah, no, you know what? That's fair, and maybe that's a conversation for another time. But okay, you're right. Okay, so how about I say, instead of Hex, I'll leave Hex out. I'll say Dogecoin, which has not. It's got about 2/3 of the circulating supply of Omi, and it hit a $90 billion market cap with all the investing that people were putting into it, and it went up to 72 cents or whatever it was, and I think that would put Omi at like 36 to 40 cents. So whether you think that's being manipulated too, I don't know. But
I wouldn't say the same. I just think that the value proposition is much different. It's just so different that probably isn't even still fair to compare. It doesn't really matter, honestly, but like with Dogecoin, it's a meme coin more than anything. And that's its value proposition, is essentially that others agree that, yes, this coin is cool. We like it. We like Doge. We like that. We like that meme. And the Omi doesn't have that going for it. It doesn't have that meme value proposition going for it. It doesn't have to, though. It has its own value proposition, which is that it's underpinning a revolution in collecting from physical to digital.
So would that not make the value proposition of the Omi token relative to Doge even more bullish then?
Honestly, it's hard to say, because memes are just so absolutely powerful in our culture.
That's true.
That, like, look at Shiba. I can see Shiba doing even better than it has in recent. Memes are just so, like, I don't know how else to say it, except they have this virality to them that it's hard to make sense of, really, that defies almost logic. It's just an incredible thing to witness, to see how it grows from person to person, and then it becomes essentially a cultural icon. So yeah, it's fascinating.
That's fair. Well, so I guess here's the takeaway that we'll take from it. So you think 2 cents is reasonable by the end of this year.
Yeah.
You think 10 cents by the end of next year with exchange listings.
Yeah.
And you think, within within 2025, $1 is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
Okay, cool. I mean, I think that is, I think a lot of people, I think that's what they want to hear is relatively where you kind of sit on that spectrum. Because obviously as someone who owns a ton of tokens, you stand to benefit, even more than a lot of other people relative to that. And it kind of gives people an idea of where your headspace is at as to what you think is possible with the token and how, likely you probably are to hold it, based on its future value. Like, it wouldn't make sense for you to sell everything at 1 cent if you thought it was going to $1. So
Right.
I think for anyone that's watching it, you may not know Aaron's exact, take profit levels, but he's obviously an intelligent guy, and if he thinks it's going to go to $1, he's not going to sell 900 million Omi at
Right.
and like you said, you're looking to hold, you said roughly $1 billion Omi for the long term. Is that is that kind of that dollar number that you're looking for with the 1 billion, so that you can say you're literally a billionaire?
No, it doesn't matter to me, billionaire or millionaire. I wouldn't probably be holding all of them until $1. I'd probably be selling various intervals up to that point. So, but in healthy proportions, obviously.
Yeah, no, for sure. That makes total sense. Do you think that the token, considering you think it's going to go from 2 cents to 10 cents next year, and we're technically just based on the cycles of crypto are supposed to hit a bear market next year? Do you think that the Omi token is bear market proof? What are your feelings on that?
No, I don't think it's bear market proof. I wouldn't use the word proof. I would say maybe bear market resistant.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that it's really a complicated topic because first of all is the question of whether or not it's reasonable to expect that we're going to see the types of cycles we've seen in the past with crypto, where Bitcoin went from 20K to 3K and then had a very predictable sort of bull run starting after the halving. I think the dynamic has changed. I think basically we're seeing a paradigm shift within crypto itself, even though crypto as a whole is a paradigm shift in general. So I'm not sure if it's reasonable to expect that we're going to see these kind of predictable cycles, these bear bull cycles, sort of in the way we've seen in the past. That being said, if we do see something along those lines, I think that Omi has a unique position to outperform the market. Because the drops are basically happening consistently, and it's how do I put this? It's like the rate of adoption is not going to necessarily be hindered by a crypto bear market. People can continue to download the app and purchase and participate in drops. If that happens, then the hype can continue to increase over time in its own cyclical way. And if that happens, then you can expect that eyeballs from crypto in general will be on Omi. And if that happens, then you can expect that people will have thoughts along the lines of, hey, my crypto is going down in general. It does seem like we're kind of in a long-term downtrend here, but look at this coin. It's either doing better than the rest of the market, or it's actually growing while everything else is falling. And those are two different scenarios. But if that happens, then you can see an additional layer of hype. So it's just so many different factors to consider, honestly. But all things considered, I'm very optimistic. That the fundamentals are going to be more important in this case in particular than the technical aspects of a bull bear market dynamic. And I actually kind of think something similar to Cardano, but we don't have to go into that. But the point is, the fundamentals to me are always more important.
That makes sense. No, and I mean, I share your sentiment that, there's no such thing as a bear market proof token, but I do very much agree that Omi will likely be bear market resistant. And I think it's important for people to understand that although we always want to see our token going up in value because we're investors and we want to make money, there is the added benefit and incentive of having a lower token price, because lower token price relative to the amount of money that's being spent on the app will result in more burn of the OMI token, which of course its deflationary nature coupled with, other methods of utility will make the token more valuable more quickly. So even going from 0.002 to 1 cent, you're burning 500% less OMI on a drop because of the value that you're burning relative to the amount that's being spent. So yes, it would be great to continue to see the token go up during a quote unquote crypto bear market. But like you said, I think what will happen is even if we do see a downtrend of the token, that will either be bought up with the bullish nature of the token just inherently for what it stands for, or it will result in additional burns, which will decrease the circulating supply, which will then in turn result in more people investing in it. So I think either way you look at it, it's exciting and bullish for the token. It's just, we don't know what's going to happen yet because this will be the first time that we've gone through it. So I don't know if you feel comfortable talking on where your OMI is currently sitting right now, but just in general, would you recommend people keep their crypto on a cold storage wallet, or would you say that an exchange is safer, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I think it's generally safer to keep it on cold storage. Yeah, I don't really have, yeah.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And yeah, people are echoing that sentiment in the comment section as well. I mean, obviously, we're not going to touch on where you keep your crypto because that's your business. But no, I would agree with you as well. I actually recently, for those of you that are curious, just ordered the Ecomi secure wallet. It has arrived. I haven't opened it. It's in a box upstairs. I am excited to use it, but I'm not going to use it quite yet because with the imminent migration to immutable and with the staking of the tokens, I don't want to transfer it onto the cold storage wallet to just have to transfer it back off to do whatever I need to do to transfer it back on. It's just an unnecessary step, and it's more likely that I lose it at some point during those 8 transactions back and forth. So we're going to leave that there. But I think that storing it on a cold storage wallet is probably the best idea. And no offense, but I got to take a little jab at you. But given how well you are with technology, for those of you that have been with us for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and remember that Aaron had some technical issues leading into this interview with getting his microphone working, I think it's probably better that you just leave it in one spot. So no, for sure. Well, honestly, man, like we still have over 100 people in the chat, and I could honestly probably keep going on about this all day. I think, why don't we make a deal with one another if you're interested, and if the community wants to see it? Why don't we touch base again and do a part 2 at some point, whether it be in a couple weeks or a couple months, with all the changes that will be happening by then. Hopefully we're migrated to immutable. We may or may not have some exchange listings by that point, and we will have at least the very least the announcements of the Master Collector program and the OMI utility program. And we'll touch on kind of where you're sitting on all of those things at that point, and touch on any other issues or concerns that may have come up in the community, and we'll go from there.
Well, that sounds really good to me.
All right, cool, man. Do you have any final thoughts for the community, for the 111 people that are watching this right now?
That's good, right? 111 people.
Well, I'd like to think so. It's the most people that I've ever had watching. I mean,
nice. Well, I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah,
I'm happy.
No, I'm very happy that you were willing to come on the channel. Like I said, it's an honor to have you on, and like I told you privately before we came on, I said, I'm freaking out a little bit. I'm talking to a future, conceivable billionaire about these issues, and I just want to make sure that they're represented, well to the community, and that you feel that your voice is being heard, and that the community is getting value from the content that's being provided.
So. I do feel like I'm being heard. You're a great interviewer. It's my honor as well. And I like you a lot, man. You're a really cool dude, honestly. I've watched all your stuff.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I like your mannerisms and how you're really considerate to the people you're talking with. I can definitely feel you have compassion for others. And that's what I really want to kind of like articulate as the final point, is that this is all temporary. Everything you own is temporary. Nothing lasts forever. That's the great lesson of Buddhism and other spiritual traditions. Everything is impermanent. So we're all in the same boat. So have compassion for others as you do upon yourself, because we're really all in this together. Thank
you so much, Aaron. That was said beautifully, and like I said, I started this channel and like I've told you and like I've said before, like I do this because I just love the project. And, you know,
Yeah.
I may not have as, you know, I have more money invested than some people and I don't have nearly as much invested in others. But for me, it's not about the money that I have invested or don't, or you know, where the token and what the current price action is today or whatever. It's like, I just love being able to interact with the community. And I love that people have an interest in the things that I'm interested in. And I love that I've been able to develop, you know, friendships and relationships in this community that I will be able to carry on with me for a long time. So, you know, thank you once again, Aaron, for coming on and being here with me, and for, you know, everyone that stuck with us for, you know, almost 2.5 hours. Thank you so much for participating and being interactive in the chat and asking Aaron your questions and providing your thoughts. You know, everyone's voice is valuable and deserves to be heard in the community, even if it's a voice that we don't necessarily agree with. You know, if you're feeling something, someone else is likely feeling it as well. So speak your mind. And, you know, everyone in this community should feel valued and appreciated. And remember that we are so incredibly early, and this is going to be such an incredible journey. And I can't wait to go on it with all of you. Friendly reminder, if you're not already, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any other awesome interviews or videos that I am putting out on the channel. And for everyone that has been supporting me on YouTube, thank you so much. Like I started this at the end of July, beginning of August, just as like a, you know, passion project for fun. I figured a couple of my buddies who were invested would watch it and we'd kind of laugh about it. And to be hitting, you know, 1,200 subscribers in such a short period of time, it means the world. And I'm a man of my word. I will be doing a stream at the end of the month, and I will be giving away at least 3 VV collectibles / comics to those subscribers. So make sure you stay tuned, and I'll release some more information about that coming out soon. So, Aaron, thank you so much again.
Foster, may I get an innocent plug from my Twitter? It's at BV and Chill.
Oh, of course, brother. Of course. Here, let me. Oh my goodness, I apologize for not even.
No, it's
because
fine.
we had talked about it and we weren't sure if you wanted to keep it private, and so I didn't.
No, if people want to follow me, that'll be kind of cool.
Of course, brother, and I 100% recommend it. I'm gonna put it down in the. Put that in there, man. And we're gonna pin the message, guys. Everyone, make sure that you go and follow Aaron on Twitter at Veve and Chill. Please do me that favor. Show him some love. Make sure that he knows that his contributions tonight were appreciated. And if any of you guys have any questions for him, you want to reach out on Twitter, or you want to reach out to me and want to talk about the project, as you can tell, we love the project and we love talking about it. So with that being said, Aaron, if you're good, we'll get her done there.
I'm good. Thank you, Foster. Right. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
All right. Thanks, guys. Love you all. Peace.